they're going to be a day late, dollar short.
Yep.
I don't know who changed the date on that. All right. Well, we're live now.
Cool. I'm gonna make sure these books are gonna show up. Yep. Sort of.
Oh,
There's some green on those books.
Yeah. All right. So we'll wait. This is going to be interesting because of the mix-up on the time and the date. Let's see. It's going to send out the notifications, and by the time people get them, if they get them, they'll start filtering in here. But I don't know how that got changed up. But apologies for that. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
We've created quite a bit of confusion with the date.
That's the kind of mistakes I make all the time. You don't understand. There's little details like that. Man, that's just me. I kind of chuckled when I saw that. I was like, oh, perfect for me to be on this stream. That mistake is perfect.
I didn't catch that. I feel so bad because I usually try to make sure that all that stuff is correct.
Yeah. Yeah, the people should be paying attention. You know, you always stream this time. So.
Well, ours is a little bit confusing because we don't do it every Saturday. And that in itself generates a little bit of confusion. Hey, Jeff, what's up? Thank you for being here, man.
Yo.
I know I need to apologize, Tommy. Yeah, it's just I guess there was a mix-up on the notification for the time and date. I could have sort of had put it for today at 1 p.m. Central Time, 11 o'clock my time, but I don't know. I dropped the ball on that one, so I'll take it. Hey, Berto, thank you for coming in.
Berto, Tommy, J-Dub, Wiz.
Hey, Brandon.
I see y'all piling in. I'll be right back, y'all. I got a hustle and flow moment. I got to kill the fan.
Okay. Yeah. So, I guess the aspect I've always assumed that you were a fish person because of especially the YouTube name, but right now when we were talking, and Steve had alluded to the fact that you were a herper, but I didn't realize how much of a herper you really were, or you are.
Yeah.
Are.
Yeah, I'm kind of extreme. A lot of people know me from the Facebook group. The What Kind of Snake Is This, North Texas. So I do a ton of. I've done that for like 27 years. I've been doing reptile education stuff. So that's really my claim to fame. It got me so popular it actually made it into Scientific American. So that was pretty cool. I got like a 4-page spread in there, and all the major news channels I've been on. So I do quite a bit of stuff. Help out Parks and Wildlife, the Texas Master Naturalist. Taught their program a couple times for reptiles and amphibians. I went through Texas Parks and Wildlife. They used to have it changed names a couple times, but it was like a biological inventory team. I was a team leader for a couple different districts here in Texas, and we just go to different people's properties that requested it, and we go through and get a team together, and we would spend the weekend just looking for as many reptiles and amphibians on our property as possible. And that was awesome. You just camp out there in the place and you'd go until you crashed and get back up and go some more. I mean, it was a hardcore weekends, but those are some real fond memories of doing that stuff. So I've done a lot of different things with reptiles and amphibians. They're not just snakes either. It's just all reptiles and amphibians. I've taught the amphibian course for the Texas Master Naturalist too. I know the frog calls in the area. Not a lot of people know that stuff. So that's kind of where I started. But I've always played around with fish. Even as a little kid in Pennsylvania, we built dams in the little creek below the house, and we trap and pound fish there. We catch little minnows, and then we take our fishing poles down to the they call it a 10-mile creek, but here they would call it like a river. It's a bigger, not really bigger than a creek, but not really a river. It's kind of intermediate. But then we get out there fishing all the time, looking for whatever kind of critters we could look for. Spent my childhood in the woods. we lived in a little mobile home. It was three teenage boys, sort of a single wide mobile home with a small little bedroom built on one of the back side of it. So there was not enough room for 3 teenagers in that place. So it was outside. If the weather was, wasn't going to kill you, get out. You got like a half-hour TV at night or something. That was it. And if you guys want to watch an hour show, this was interesting. It's 3 kids. If we wanted an hour show to watch, you had 30 minutes of TV. So you had to get with one of the other 2 kids, your 2 brothers or my brother or my cousin, and say, okay, I want to watch this show. You want to watch it too? If you do want to watch it, we could combine our time together to watch an hour show, a 2-hour special. We're out of luck. But there was no, just out of luck. Sorry, you ain't watching it. So that was my childhood.
Let me do a
Y'all
little bit
didn't
of
get put to
housekeeping.
work.
Muppet, thank you for being here with us today. Mandy, the Zen Ginger, thank you very much. She comes in and dropping links already, man. So thank you very much for that. She put down Mark's YouTube channel, so that's up there for you guys. And who else? And Sarah, Skitty Nona, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Again, for those of you that are coming in, I just want to apologize for the confusion. I guess without me realizing, I put the wrong date and time for the stream for today, and I was scheduled for tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, we can do that too if y'all want. I mean,
those of you guys
you can do that.
That's not our usual time.
No, I got an
so
appointment
thank
there
you for being
too.
here.
Hey, I've got another YouTube channel that's a little bit better suited for what I'm talking about, and that's Texas Fish. I used to use that handle all the time on YouTube, but there's a Texas Fish room, and we used to get confused. He'd call me Texas Fish Room, and I was like, I don't want to step on his toes. He's been around a lot longer than I have, so I just changed my name. Just basically made a new channel. I kept that one around because I had a lot of videos on it. I don't want to delete all the videos and start over. So that's more of like an outdoor type of channel where I do a lot more outdoor stuff. The Pyle Aquatics is more for the killifish breeding and more for husbandry type things or keeping. And then the other channel is the biggest channel, and that's the Texas Snake ID, and that's my snake channel. There's a ton of videos on there. Probably almost have like 2,300 people subscribers on that channel. For some reason, I can't get it monetized. It shows I have plenty of view hours and everything. It checks all the marks, but it won't let me do it. It's just I don't have enough view hours. And I looked at it, and at the time I was like, yeah, I do. So I don't know. I gave up.
Yeah, Mandy
I haven't
just
posted
dropped
much
the
stuff.
link.
No, you can't give up now. Y'all go.
I didn't give up, but just shifted gears, I guess, a little bit.
Well, hopefully this will get out there to all the little corners.
I've got some I'm going to play some videos later in my program. Then they're from the Texas Fish YouTube channels where I have those uploaded to. But there's some neat stuff. I plan on doing a lot more with all those channels, really. But it's hard to keep 3 channels going actively, especially when it's 105 degrees outside on a nice day. Today's supposed to be like 108 or something. You just can't go outside for very long. Even in the morning, it's like an hour or two, and then you start dying.
Have y'all broke 100 yet? Because I saw a meme, and they was making fun of the Houston weather, and they showed the people out there dancing and celebrating, partying. And then the one dude, he was all sweating and stuff. And he was like, what the hell y'all partying for? It's 97 degrees. It's not like it's not hot. But 97 is a nice day. Can you believe that?
Monday is supposed to be like 91. I'm going to have to get my jacket.
I posted a couple weeks back, like it was like 80 degrees in the house, and I had a blanket and some footsie so I could watch Netflix.
Hey,
I'm
Mark,
fully acclimated. Well,
hold on, Steve.
Yes, sir.
I guess Mandy had dropped in the link, and she wants to know if that's the right channel, the Texas Snake ID. Is that the other YouTube channel that you have?
That is one. Where is it at? Let's see if I can see it on the chat here. Scroll back up.
It's got like a coral snake as the avatar.
Yeah, that's it. Curled up.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
that's
Mandy,
mine.
that's the right one.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate that.
She was trying to confirm that was the right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys, but I wanted to make sure we addressed that before we went on any further.
No problem.
You're good.
Yep. Very cool.
I was about to see if y'all ready, because I'm loaded.
He's taking notes. I'm in trouble.
No. So, first of all, welcome. Well, we appreciate you for showing up.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
I mean, I gotta kind of give credence to that too. That's the cool part about it, the humility, and the internet makes it that way now, to where accolades, and it's about being first and all these different things. Not to go down that pathway, but to get to the meat of it, I appreciate the fact that you just a normal cat. You know, you're a cool dude that you cut from the same cloth as us. Like, we don't just talk about fish and nerd stuff. We talk about life. And so I appreciate that. Welcome to the show. With that being said,
Hey, I don't know how else to be.
hey, I mean, was that like the other day? Yes, one of them days we was going back and forth, and I was telling you about my bio, and I put that on there about the how nature is impartial, ain't no feelings involved, and I always use the analogy of like the zebra and the lionesses, you know, and the lionesses get the zebra foal, and everybody's like, "You bastards!" And then you see the little lion cubs, you know, the little baby lion cubs come out, teetering out, and you're like, "Well, damn." And then the Lion King song turn on in your head, and circle of life, man. Everything the light touches, it is what it is. So,
Hey, Tommy, thanks for posting my link to my website. I forgot I have a website too.
yeah, check this out.
No,
So-
our monitors are on top of everything.
Funny thing, like,
I mean, moderators monitor.
and we can talk about that later on if you want, but I thought you was a different person because of the killifish.
Oh, yeah. Tricked you, didn't I?
Yeah. a long time ago, I was in the snakes. A lot of people know that. And if y'all don't know, Mark's crazy. He plays with stuff that can kill you. And when I was in the Navy, you know, I was trying to cat daddy, you know, gunning. And there is a piebald rattlesnake. It's red and white. And if I was going to ever have anything deadly in my house, it would be that.
Have you
It's
seen my
just-
white-sided rattlesnake?
Yes. That thing is
awesome.
if I'm it's art that you respect. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah, you always got to respect that thing, man. You know,
So
it's wired
before we
differently
do-
too
yeah.
than rattlesnakes.
Because we ain't gonna get no shit. Like, this is what I'm talking about. You a normal cat. We'll sit up here and bullshit the whole time
Oh, yeah.
and not get nothing good, did. So let's pay some bills real quick, y'all. Appreciate y'all all for piling in. And like Jorge said, the mishap. If y'all can do us a solid on y'all own appropriate network, share it out. You know, let the people know it was a snafu, as we like to say, and get in for a good show. So, Mark, if you can introduce yourself formally and kind of go into what we here for today,
Okay.
based
Well,
on
my
what
name's-
you prepared.
I'm obviously Mark Pyle. I do a lot of different things. I wear a bunch of different hats. Obviously, we're talking about some of the stuff I do. I am currently the president of the Dallas-Fort Worth Herpetological Society. I breed killifish. I'm a falconer. I keep and use snakes for training for people. Wednesday, I'll be up with Oklahoma for their animal control academy, and they have like a 2-week-long academy. So we're going to be up there one whole day teaching them how to identify different snakes and how to actually work with them hands-on. Just, you know, I even like invertebrates. Totally dig spiders, and got a couple spiders here at the house too, and just a little bit of everything. You know, just if it's nature, I am drawn to it. There's a few things like plants. I kind of start getting into the plants, but there's just a lot of them and a lot more information. So that's why I'm hoping that maybe I can get some help with some from the plant stuff. We're pretty good at IDing and let the stuff, but like aquarium plants and things, yeah, I got them growing sometimes, but I haven't really put the effort in to really try to, you know, propagate them and really get it going good. It's just they're more in the tank just to suck up the nitrates and stuff in my tank and to look pretty. But that's about as far as I've got with plants. So
You know
yeah, I
what
just
you
do a lot
did,
of things.
right?
What I do.
You just opened the endless portal to Instagram messages
Here we
about
go.
plants and how to grow them shits and
don't watch a
identify
lot
the
of stuff.
wild ones. Like looking at them in the field, they're different. See, you done got me started. I'm sorry. See what you did?
Yeah, I'm going to have to keep you quiet.
Yeah.
Can I get a mute button on him, please? I'm just joking, man. I always appreciate it. So that's a little about me. I do a little of everything, and I try to specialize in really nothing anymore. I kept snakes for so long, and man, I just cleaning up snake poop is getting old. So kind of switched over to keeping fish a little bit. I'd rather clean out, do water changes than clean snake cages. It's just a whole lot easier, a lot more pleasant, because as soon as you put a snake back in the cage, I don't know if you ever kept snakes, but it's every time. As soon as you put them back in the cage, they go straight in their water bowl and poop, or they poop and smear it all over the place. And it's like, really, you had to rescent the thing or something. It's just annoying. So, yeah, it's a lot easier. But I still love snakes, and I have a passion for that still, obviously, because I'm still the president of the Herp Society, and I'm training people how to stay safe around them. And that's our thing. And one of the things I like to preach is, even with these animal control guys, especially, if you don't got to mess with it, don't. So if you're in a situation, first thing you think is, do I really need to be doing something in this situation? It really comes with all kind of wildlife. I'm also a licensed rehab, I'm a sub-permitted licensed wildlife rehabber. So I take in a lot of birds and a lot of stuff. People call me a lot of times, and they have an animal they need help with. Well, the first thing we try to do is try to leave it where it's at, or help it. Like if it's a bird on the ground, you might get it back up and re-nest it or something, because the mom is going to take care of it, or parents are going to take care of it a lot better than we are, no matter what. So if you can keep it out there, that's the goal. That's a lot of things we preach.
Let me ask you something then, because I grew up under the belief, especially now that you mentioned the birds that get dropped out of a nest. Yeah. I remember as a kid growing up, the whole thing was, if you touch it, the mother will keep rejecting it.
Abandoning it, yeah.
You're set on it.
Smell you on it or something?
Yeah. Is that true, or is that just a myth? Or
number one, most species of birds have a very poor sense of smell, if really much at all. So like a small little songbird, you pick that songbird up, the parent can't smell you on there anyhow. So that's myth number one bust. Can't even smell you. And they absolutely will go right back to their babies. If the baby disappears long enough, take it inside, and you're trying to, ID it or play around with it or whatever, and the mom keeps coming back, can't find the baby. And how long that is, it's going to vary on every single individual animal. So you have no idea if it's just 10 minutes or if it's 3 hours you can have away from its parents. But normally, if you leave it there, the mom sees it and you put it back up into the nest, or you can even make a little basket, like the little Easter baskets that they have around Easter time. Keep some of those around. And then you could put newspaper, something, not really newspaper, but something in there that the water will pass through when it rains. So that's why those little wicker baskets are great, because they have little holes in the bottom for ventilation and for drainage. So you put those high up or as close up as the original nest. Sometimes the nest is in a place you can't get to. It's just, there's no way you're getting it back up there. But go ahead and stick that nest, tie that nest to a tree, nail it to the tree, whatever you got to do. Get it as close as you can up to the parent. Stick the baby back inside and get out of the way, disappear for a while and observe it and see if mom's coming back. If mom or dad, if parents aren't coming back and it's not being taken care of, peek in there, look at the thing. If it looks like it's in trouble, then go ahead and call a rehabber. You can usually look them up online. You can even contact me. I can help you find a rehabber, especially in Texas, in North Texas especially. And then we can get it to somebody that can hopefully take care of it. But hopefully you can get it back in the nest. Some birds are really good about taking care of their babies on the ground. Some are not. So it depends on the species and individual parents, just depends on the situation. Especially if you see if it's injured. If it's injured in any way, it's got something wrapped around its leg. Like people like to use lint out of their lint traps, or they use human hair, put it outside for the birds to use in their nest. Terrible idea. What happens is the hair is too long and it gets wrapped around legs, cuts off circulation, or they just can't leave the nest or can't move, and they end up dying. So the same thing with the lint. There's just hair and stuff in there. It gets all wrapped around their limbs. So you want short hair stuff that you want to put out and let them use so they can't get wrapped up in it. Like if you had a real short dog hair that can't get wrapped up in anything, that's fine. So you just got to be careful what you're putting out. I've rescued a lot of animals that are like that in the springtime. They're all tied up and it's just sad. Usually you can't save them. It's just too much damage has been done. As a rehabber, you start getting really kind of callous. You almost have to, because by the time an animal comes to you, it's in such bad shape that it's probably going to be euthanized most of the time. You can save some. You save what you can. But at least you put them out of their misery quickly. They didn't have to slowly suffer and die. So yeah, that's the thing with the birds. So yeah, try to get them back out there if you can.
All right. Well, Steve, do you want to start getting into this? Because I know you guys have worked on this stream for quite a bit since the last time we got together. Why don't you do the introduction as to what we're going to be doing today, and then we'll let Mark take off with it because I know it is quite extensive and a lot of stuff. That you
Yeah.
We're probably not gonna get done today, so that's okay.
Yeah.
If we start running out of time, I'll start skipping through this stuff. It's not that important.
No. Don't skip to it. We'll just do another episode. I mean,
Okay.
If that's
That'll
okay
work.
with you.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, if y'all know, episode is Natives Fish Keeping 101. And as you heard, Mark is a certified wildlife rehabilitation specialist. And he's also a hobbyist, an enthusiast, a collector, a naturalist, if you will. The same thing that we all do. So, going into it, what got you started keeping natives, and what impact has it had on you as a hobbyist? How long you been doing it, etc. Kind of, ease us into it.
That's a pretty good questions. I like that. So, what kind of got me into it? I guess as a kid, man, making those little dams and things, you get interested in fish. But we lived in that little mobile home on top of steep hill. Didn't hold a lot of cash or anything. So getting an aquarium, setting it up in the house inside of there wasn't going to happen. It's just, financially, and just that the mobile home was not designed that way. It's an older mobile home. Just the floors wouldn't handle that kind of weight. They were kind of a little bit, not like Bowie, but you could tell when you walked hard, they weren't solid. So I never even asked for an aquarium. So I didn't do a whole lot when I was a kid, but just playing with them and catching them into creeks and stuff and learning what was there, man, it was just really fascinating. Then later on, when I got my own house and I had kids and things, we'd go down to the creeks and play with stuff. And then, of course, it was in the reptiles. We're going out and catching reptiles all the time. So another friend of mine was in the reptiles and stuff too. But he was going out. He said, "Hey, man, let's go out and do some seining." I was like, "Man, I love doing seining." So we got the old minnow seines out and we hit some boat ramps. And this is a really cool technique of catching fish. You get on a boat ramp with a buddy and you get a minnow seine. A minnow seine is basically a mesh of material that has floats on top and anchors on the bottom with two sticks on it. That's all the seine is. So you and a buddy walk up to this boat ramp, and one of you starts off first walking straight ahead into the water, right on the edge of the boat ramp, right where the concrete's at, where you drive on. Walk straight down as far as you can. Usually get up to about your waist. We would like to do because it was a lot of fun that way. Do this on a hot night. Like tonight would be a great night to do this, man. It's so hot outside. Do it after dark. Seems to work better after dark. Go all the way down there, and then you go down there with him, and then he cuts across, perpendicular or parallel to the boat ramp. And now you got the seine going across the boat ramp, and you walk it. You keep the bottom of it on the bottom of the boat ramp, and you just walk up it as fast as you can. And usually you have it bowed, so you want it, kind of bowed like this when you're walking this direction. So the fish kind of want to go into the bow area, and they'll get scared out. If you have it too straight, they'll hit that thing and bounce out. They'll go right along the edge of it if it's not bowed. So you want to make sure it's bowed down. So you guys kind of get together a little bit, go all the way up to the shore, and then you flip the bottom underneath, and you go as fast as you can with the bottom of the seine catching anything that's trying to go underneath of the seine, and have the floats kind of on top of the water, so you're catching everything. So it's kind of like this, and it's bowed like this. You have a nice big pocket, and once you get the thing out of the water, you just lift it straight up out of the water and start picking through and see what you got. So we started doing that, and it was like, oh man, this is pretty cool. So I had a 75-gallon aquarium at home that I had a bearded dragon in, and she ended up having a prolapse after she laid her third clutch of eggs, and took her to a vet. Didn't know what they were talking about because I didn't know what was going on at the time. This was this was just when we first started keeping stuff. So this is probably 27 years ago, 25 years ago, and they didn't do it right. End up losing her. So I had this 75-gallon aquarium with nothing in it. So I turned that into a fish tank. So we started bringing some of these minnows and stuff home that we were catching and having fun with them. That thing went through a lot of different phases. I ended up having some cichlids in there for a while, all kind of different native fish. But at the time, I didn't have good lighting. Lighting was the biggest issue. The good lighting was really expensive, and I was just starting my job and working for an aviation company at the time, but I was not making good money at all. So that was out of my price range. So you're just trying to throw something in there that lives. Not knowing a whole lot about the nitrogen cycle. I knew something about that, but didn't really fully understand what was doing. And then we just started, the net went away. We got some other aquariums here and there. So for the last, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years, I've really got back into it heavy. Where, I started just going, okay, the snakes are fun, but I'm switching gears. I just got interested in keeping more natives. And I've always gone out and catch natives. I mean, I go out to the creeks and catch some fish and go and catch some minnows and go fishing with them and see what we can catch. So I've got some cool videos of some of the stuff that we've caught. So, and how we do it. So that's kind of how I got started. And then the killifish, I started catching some native killifish.
Mm-hmm.
Those caught my eye. I just like the shape of them. I just like their story. I can go into the whole thing about killifish, but they're just a really fascinating fish, a group of fish. And so I started really keeping those and finding some success in breeding them and got hooked in the breeding killies. So I still keep quite a few native fish. And of course I keep a ton of killies now. That's how I kind of got my feet wet.
Okay. So kind of building on that, how much of a role did accessibility have for you keeping natives? Because me, from a personal standpoint, shit, we was out there in the woods and shit, After I told you, after my mom passed away, I went over there in the country over there by my granny and them, and there wasn't no pet stores. Or you could go to like Deerbrook Mall, you could go to Willowbrook Mall, you go to San Jacinto, you know what I'm saying? You can hit the little joints out that way for people in the area to know. You can go to Tascasita, Humble, like that. But really and truly, it was the ditch. Like, it was a ditch. It was accessibility. And then it's
that's what it is. Usually when you're poor, like, you don't have a lot of money. Like I started off, not having a lot of cash to buy all these fancy exotic fish, man. You start going, well, what can I grab? And you remember going down to the creek and catching some pretty cool looking little minnows. Hey, I wonder if those will live. You throw those in there. Hey, these are going great. What else can I catch? So then you start catching stuff and you're going, holy cow, I didn't know something like this cool looking existed in Texas. This is awesome. So then you throw that in your tank and you're keeping that. And you're going like, wow, these darters, man, these are freaking neat. What the heck is this? Oh, that's a red shiner. And you're going, man, when they color up, you're going, this is as good as any tropical fish. And the only thing I got to worry about paying for or problems you might have is parasites. And the only parasite that I've really had ever problems with those anchor worms I talked about last time. Yeah. And they're like a worm that almost looks like a plant inside the fish. It's got almost got a root system. Then it's got a little stem comes out. It looks like it has the head of a plant. And the only way to really get rid of those is to catch the fish that have them and pull them off. And so you just do that every day. You look through your tank and catch every one you see with one of those on it. And eventually you start pulling them off before they have a chance to reproduce. You break that life cycle and then you got some clean fish. So you don't have to spend any money on chemicals or anything. It's all mechanical. Because as far as I know, to this day, I have not found any way to kill off the adults chemically using any kind of chemicals. It's all physically yank them out. And if you break them off, they just grow back. You got to pull out the root. It's just really weird.
I don't know if it's anecdotal or not, but I came across something eats them. If somebody in the chat knows, something eats them? It was a hydra. All those things are hydra magnet. It just eats the shit out of hydra. But getting the cat to kill the rat, the snake, the dog, the old lady in the shoe, Mother Goose, that ethics basically. Do you know of anything that eats them? Something has to.
No, I don't. I don't know of anything. And it's really weird because it's really
that's
just
a
the red shiners
waiting to happen.
I've got all these other fish in the tank, and the red shiners would get them really bad. And sometimes the gambusia would get them or two. You might get a fish here and there, get one or two, but they seem to be way less susceptible or just didn't get them at all. But those crazy red shiners, man, I just like those red shiners for some reason. And I have no clue why. That might be anecdotal too. Maybe it's just my experience, because it's a limited area. It's a limited number of fish. So maybe it's just my experience, but it seemed like they just, I like the red shiners, but nothing else. And I've made a mistake before sticking a bunch of red shiners in a 75-gallon heavily planted tank without, cleaning them first. I left them in the tank for a couple of weeks, didn't see anything wrong, threw them in that big tank, and then the anchor worm took over, and there's pretty much no way you're catching those every day. Because if you've ever seen the red shiners, man, constantly super active. You catch one, oh, there's an anchor worm on the dorsal fin of that one right there at the anchor. You see it go by, it turns, it mixes in with the other ones. You're going, okay, which one was it? Crap, So you end up catching them like all of them and trying to find that one. Whenever you get them out of the water, that little thing goes right against those rays on the fins, and you can't see the stupid anchor worm. So it makes it really hard to catch and get rid of. It's a pain. So I'm going to do it again, but I've got a small 10-gallon aquarium. I'm just going to go catch a few, 3 or 4, put them in that tank, let them sit there for a month, go through them every day, make sure they're all clean, put them in a bigger tank, and then go get 4 or 5 more and just keep doing that until I build up a nice big school of them that I know are clean.
Well, I know that
it's a lot of work.
I've seen a video a while back when I was trying to look for information on goldfish when I started keeping them. And it was an interesting video because they were talking about that in Asia, there's a symbiotic relationship that the breeders have where they'll have goldfish with angelfish. And the idea behind that is that the angelfish will eat all the parasites off of the goldfish. It particularly likes that the goldfish are prone to get. And so it wasn't uncommon to see in a breeding tank with goldfish to have a few angelfish in there for that sole purpose. It's for them to be pest control and be able to, reduce the manual labor of trying to pluck these water flies off of them. But
and maybe in the wild, that's how they survive and don't get all killed off by the anchor worms, because eventually the anchor worms will kill the fish. I mean, they get enough of them on them and they just suck them dry, it seems like, and they'll start getting infections and things and they'll die. So maybe in the wild there's something that's kind of keeping that in harmony without it getting out of balance and causing mass chaos. But of course, a river system is a bigger area and they may not be as likely to pick up the parasites more than just 1 or 2 here and there. And in a tank, you're kind of condensing all that down, so now it's easier for that one fish to catch multiple of these and get succumb to it. So I don't know what's going on, but it is interesting.
I know you had put together a presentation. I don't know if you want to get into that or.
Yeah, go for it. That's I got a whole bunch of notes that I'm going to be working off of. So the first part of the presentation is a little bit boring, but I think it's really important because it's kind of some laws and things like that we need to go over to make sure everybody's legal and don't get anybody in trouble. And there's some ethical things that kind of probably need to be addressed. And then we can get into some pretty pictures and talk a lot and show you some really cool videos and have a little more fun. So hopefully everybody enjoys this. So to start off, I do want to talk about some of the laws, and there's multiple levels of the laws. There's some laws that are like international laws, of course, shipping stuff out of the country, into the country, important things. You got to be careful of that, but that really doesn't affect us too much. But there are some federal and state laws, like any kind of federal threatened and endangered species. You gotta know what those are in your area. If you're going to learn anything, figure out what's threatened and endangered in your area first, and how to identify them. Make sure that you can identify them and you know exactly where those should occur, and you avoid those. And I would even suggest, if it's something that's very kind of rare and has a very specific habitat and it's in a riverway that you're going to go to, avoid that type of habitat if you can. Just leave those things alone if you can possibly help it. That's more of an ethical thing. Now there's federally threatened and federally protected. Those are kind of, or endangered and threatened. They're a little bit different. Endangered means you can't do anything about their habitat. It's more protected. It gets a lot more stringent, and threatened usually means you can't mess with the animal. But either way, leave those guys alone. That's why I highly recommend that. Then look and see what state threatened and endangered and do the same thing. Try to avoid those fish. Learn all you can about them, their natural history, and try to make some good choices on where you're at. You might be an area that they spawn in a certain type of habitat a certain time of year. Just don't go in that area that time of year. Go somewhere else for a while, and then come back to that area whenever they've not spawning and everything's settled down. Then there's other, of course, states got all kind of other regulations. Every state's going to be different. I know a lot of the Texas state laws, because that's where I'm at in Texas. I don't know about much of the rest of the country's laws, but I do know there's some states that you're not allowed to keep any native fish in your aquariums. Other states don't care what you keep. I mean, it's pretty much, all wheels off. Texas is pretty much open, except for the threatened and endangered. Can't keep those. But you can keep pretty much all of the, even if you keep game fish too. You can keep fish, but you have to collect them and follow the laws on collecting. So, like for game fish, you still got to follow the size regulations of that fish. So you can't bring a small little bass this big home and keep it as a pet, or even a little fry. That's illegal. You've got to catch it in a certain way. You can't net a game fish in Texas. So if I net up, it doesn't matter what kind of game fish it is. If I net it, no matter how big it is or whatever, I've got to release it. So if I was wanting to keep something like that, I would have to go through rod and reel or whatever legal means that's laid out and catch it that way to bring it home to put it in my aquarium. But now most of the fish here in Texas are not game fish. There's only a small list of game fish, and that's all listed out in the regs, what's game fish and what's not. So most of the fish I keep, in fact, I don't keep any game fish at all. I keep non-game fish only, which makes it easier because most of those are smaller anyhow. But you can keep a gar, things like that. I mean, it's legal to keep, but I don't have a tank that can handle something that big. Man, I've caught a couple little gar about this long, man. That was awesome. I was like, man, I wanted to keep the kids home because, man, that'd be cool to go in up there about this big or so, man, watching them eat. And I thought, and then what am I going to do with it when it gets to be, 2 foot long? Now what? Now I need a big tank, and I'm going to need a really big tank eventually. Well, I don't have the means to do that. So let's just let it go and find a YouTube channel. Somebody's got one that's keeping it ethically and watch them and enjoy it that way. So then you go past the state laws, and then you get into more of the county. So some counties might have some rules and regs, but then you even have cities that have their regs inside of some of their smaller ponds and things like that. And even some lakes have different regulations, state regulations on the lake. So you need to even pay attention to what lake you're on or what waterway you're on. And then even inside of that, you might be inside of a community. Like we have these homeowner associations around here and things. They have little ponds and things in there. They're going to have their own regulations. They're like a small cities where they have their own police departments, and they're fully just like a police department. So you have to follow their regs too. So there's a lot of stuff you need to look into before you even start this to make sure you're not getting yourself in trouble. Some of the weird laws here in Texas are you're not allowed to, well, it seems weird, but you're not allowed to move the water from the waterway you get it from. So if you catch some fish there, you can't take a 5-gallon bucket and scoop up some water, put your minnows in there, put your little aerator in there, stick them in your car and take them home. That's illegal. You can't take the water. Now you could bring your water from home and you get some dechlorinated water or spring water, whatever you've got, good water at home. You put that in your bucket and you have that in your car. You're fine. Catch your fish. You can have a little bucket there on the shore or whatever to put your fish in temporarily. But when you go to transfer those fish to your car, you take a net, put a net over top of another bucket, or just hold the net out, pour all that water and those fish through that net. Take the fish from the net, put them into your bucket. So you're separating the fish from the water. And it sounds crazy. It's like, well, who cares about the water going home? What are you going to do with that water? Well, that's the point. Is they're trying to isolate zebra mussels. Is pretty much the main culprit. Zebra mussels are wiping out lakes here. They take over. They plug up all kind of power generation systems, pumps. They're just causing all kind of nightmares. So they're trying to isolate them and keep them from spreading. The fact of the matter is, unfortunately, it's pretty much a kind of too late, too little, too late type of right. problem. But just in case, they're trying to do what they can. So they don't want you doing it. I even asked the game warden. I was like, so well, I'm just catching these fish. I'm going straight home. Why is that a big deal? I mean, nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to take it to our lake. He goes, well, we're worried about you getting halfway home. Your buddy goes, hey, the fish are biting over here at this lake. I'm out of bait. You got any bait? Hey, guess what? I got a whole bucket of bait. Let's go over here and go fishing. And that's how things get transferred. Even if you're in a boat, you got to drain your live wells out, any kind of water, try to eliminate all that stuff that you can. So those are one of the weird things. And the craziest law that I heard is, and this is you can't look in that little handout. They give you a little handout with all the rules and regs for hunting and fishing. It's not in there. You got to go to the real regs on the internet where it's you have to drill down through and find out the real regs. In there, you are not allowed to take a fishing pole and rod and submerge it completely underwater and catch a fish with it. Something has to be out of the water. Either part of the pole or part of the reel. And I guess I question is like, what kind of craziness is this? And I guess to come to find out, it's really easy if you had scuba gear on or snorkel to go underwater and to target fish, underneath a rock ledge or whatever, and catch fish that way. It's just unfair. It's just too easy, and they don't want you doing that. That's the excuse I heard. So I don't know the whole facts. But Texas Parks and Wildlife put a video out on their YouTube channel about microfishing, which I'll talk about later. But the dude's in the water, and he's got the reel and the rod underwater catching fish right there on Texas Parks and Wildlife. I'm going, obviously they don't know that law. It's so obscure that they just didn't even know it. And so, who's gonna enforce that? What kind of game warden's even gonna know that law or care? But you never know.
You'd be surprised. Yeah.
You might be surprised one day that game warden, for some reason, has a chip on his shoulder for you, and he's going to throw everything he can throw at you just because he doesn't like you, or you smarted off to him or something. That's always a bad idea when you're dealing with them. Always be polite. They might be dead wrong, but you just got to be polite and try to keep it civil, because you're just not going to help you at all getting mad or throwing a fit there on the field. So
they got a lot of power in the state of Texas.
They do.
There.
They sure do. And
Well,
I try to keep those guys as friends.
Point, though.
But
about the water transportation, like, it's a force of habit. You know how it is to where you just do things because that's what you've been taught. So like, even if y'all been watching me on Instagram, I've been making time to get in the ditches and catch different natives, and I always have water on deck and something to transport with, because you don't move water, you just don't. So
it could be bad. Just, you don't do that for your local LFS when you come home with their water. You don't put their water in your water.
that ain't no maybe, Mandy.
So that's something you need to think about too. You could be moving. You don't want zebra mussels in your tank either. I don't know if they live that well, but that would be kind of suck. Have a nice big FX6 over there, and you just plugged it up with zebra mussels and burn it up. That'd be crazy. Unlikely, probably, but still, you never know.
I think it was last year where they were having a thing where they pulled all the mothballs out of the stores because they had concerns that they had zebra mussels in it. And I know Mandy had alluded to that earlier in one of the comments, and but I remember that being a real thing. So the biggest concern was that you could have them reproduce in your aquariums, and when you were doing water changes, you were introducing those into your waterways. So that was the big scare.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yep. So it's a real deal. There's another kind of thing that I want to. It's kind of off topic a little bit, but it's kind of goes along this. Is the safety issue. There is right now in Texas, if anybody that's not from this area knows, we are super dry. It is ridiculously hot. The creeks have pretty much stopped flowing, except for the main rivers where they have dams. They're opening up dams, let the water, just enough water to keep the river flowing. But there's a lot of areas that are stagnant, and even in the rivers, the ponds, and the streams, and that stagnant water can harbor a brain-eating amoeba that's actually killed people here in my area, in the Paluxy River and things. So that's another thing that this time of year, I do not mess around with stagnant water. Now, you have to get it in your nose, your mouth, or eyes, or something to get it into your body. But one splash of water and you're done.
That's all it takes.
I just leave the stagnant water alone. If it's all stagnant, stand outside, watch it, dip net it or something, or just don't go walking through it. Don't mess with it. Stay away from it if you can, because it's a real deal. And once you get it, there's really no cure. So you're in serious trouble. You're probably going to die. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. It's something worth thinking about when you're out there. But it shouldn't stop you from going to have fun. That's for sure. As soon as it cools back down. Based on that,
I was going to ask you, and just real quick, because people do get intimidated. Like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna go ahead and keep my brain not eating and go to Petco. Damn that. So is there anything that you do by force of habit for biointegrity purposes to protect yourself, like carry hand sanitizer, wipes? Like, is there anything you do other than just obviously common damn sense? But you saw the young water man jumped in the pool, the abandoned pool, and for a YouTube prank, he jumped in it was an abandoned pool at some home or property. Water, green water too. Like, it'd have been great to raise some fry in, but
when I'm out there, I make maybe I should be more cautious, but just never drink the water you're at. It does bring up the issue I was going to bring up a little later here, but I'll bring it up now. disinfecting your equipment, if you're going to be going between waterways, is something that's coming more and more common, and being in the scientific world, especially being more preached. Because a lot of times you're going from different sources of water, you're looking for different animals in different places, and we're finding a lot of diseases are being spread before we even know they exist. The next thing you know, they're spread everywhere. We're finding, oh yeah, it was on their shoes, like chytrid fungus and things like that can be spread. So a 10% bleach solution soaked for 30 minutes is normally what it takes. That's pretty hard on gear. I understand that, but if you want to disinfect your stuff right, that's what you do. Of course, you rinse it really well when you're done. Those are just precautions. Clean all the mud off your shoes, things like that, before you go into another waterway or another part of the waterway is recommended. So, just kind of things to think about whenever you're out there, moving things around. Just try not to move organisms around. And it's illegal in the state of Texas to move one animal from one place to another, like a fish from this pond or from this river to that river system or to your pond or whatever. That's illegal. They're trying to keep that stuff where it should belong. It's the genetic flows and things. There's a lot to it, a lot more than just the genetics. You won't want to move those animals around. So I'm going to present.
Well, this happens a lot. Like, we'll have a guest on and they'll be telling a topic, and because of magic, they'll say something that was in the damn notes, and might as well expound on it. Welcome to Fish Plancy My Smart. So you're talking about keeping species where they belong. So real quick for the people, because we can get technical here, man. We got a good group of folks, man.
I would suggest let Mark continue with his presentation, because we already been 45 minutes in, and he still has a good amount of effort.
I was going to say, talk about native transplants. Like, even though they're from America, they don't belong where they're at. That type of stuff.
Yeah. It's invasive species and stuff. But, so let me share the screen for you. And there we go. All right. So, how do you speak Texan? That's a crick. Where I grew up from in southwest Pennsylvania, man, that's a crick. That's not a creek. So every time I hear somebody say crick, man, that just puts a smile on my face. So if I'm ever talking to you and you want to talk about a crick, man, you'll see me smile a little bit. Okay. So some of the ethical stuff about when you're going out and doing this thing. This picture here looks cool. Looks like somebody did a really cool job. It's a neat looking picture, but it makes me cringe and it makes my heart sink a little bit, because that's a small creek, and that was a pretty major section of the area that they disturbed to stack all that up. They go, what's this, rocks? Well, stuff lives under that rocks. There's a lot of amphibians will too, but a lot of invertebrates that fish use for food later on, especially if you're pulling that out of the water. This is just a bad deal. You destroy a lot of habitat, and sometimes that doesn't come back as fast as you'd think it would. And realistically, if you're putting a foot into the creek, you're destroying habitat. But you're destroying habitat on such a small level that it really doesn't impact a lot. So you can get away with a lot of things, but you've got to think about what you're doing. Whenever you're moving a rock out here, one rock in this stream, not going to make much difference. But if you're moving one rock, say at the Devil's Hole pupfish area, where there's only just a couple hundred of them, yeah, you made a big difference. You could destroy that habitat. So you kind of have to look at the area and how much destruction you're doing and what kind of impact you're really having on it. So stuff like this, that's a lot of rocks they moved around. And if you look, there's not a lot of the big rocks around. Those big rocks really like to house a lot of bigger macroinvertebrates and all kind of small fish. It's really neat area for that stuff to be. So I encourage you not to do that. I'll show you here in a second a spawning beds. You got a little video show you spawning beds. You don't want to step in those spawning beds, and I'll show you some stuff here in a second. Also, over harvesting. If you're going to go out your way to catch a certain species of fish, it's good to kind of try to figure out how many of those fish would be in that area. And you may have to go out and do some sampling before you collect anything. Go see how hard it is to find them. If you're only catching one or two of those, and you've went out there for an hour and where you think you should be at, and you can't catch them, I would probably not collect at that spot. That fish may be super common throughout the whole area, but right where you're at, it may not be common. Find an area that they're more common at. Go collect them there. There's no problem. If you're catching 100 of them in 30 minutes, you're probably not going to do any harm at all. Take a couple dozen home. It's not going to affect anything overall. So just keep things like that in mind. I don't like to overharvest, and overharvesting is kind of tricky because you've got to consider the population of the animal of where you're at, not just how common that animal is. Maybe the most common animal in the world, but not where you're at. So think about that. Man, don't release your fish. We already talked about that. So if you bring, well, we didn't really. If you take a fish home, so you catch a bluegill, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, any fish, you take it home, put it in the tank at home. Even if it's the only fish you have and it was a brand new tank you put that fish into, don't put that fish back when you're done. I don't care if you put it back in the exact spot you got it from. You're just a slight chance you could introduce problems in that waterway, pathogens, things like that. And plus that fish now is acclimated to an aquarium life. It may not be suited to live in the wild anymore. It might just starve to death because it's looking for pellets. Animals do dumb stuff like that. It's not really dumb stuff. They just kind of like get programmed to look for certain foods. They don't know how to hunt anymore. So they're just looking for that and they can't find it. They'll slowly starve to death and die. So it's not really ethical. And it's not legal too in most states. It's not here in Texas. Once you bring it home, put it in tanks, you can't take it back out there. So your options are find someone else that wants it, keep it forever for yourself, or humanely euthanize it. There's your options. And one of my biggest pet peeves is going to be trash and fishing line. Pick up your trash. It sucks to hit the waterway and there's just trash everywhere because people that pick up their stuff. Don't dump your minnows and stuff in the water either. That's just a bad idea. Your leftover goldfish and things. Take that back with you. But fishing line. I am a rehabber and I can't tell you how many birds that I've picked up that have fishing line wrapped around their legs and their legs are swollen up, almost running rot off on them, and I have to euthanize them. I even chased down a pelican one time. You know how hard it is to chase down a pelican in the kayak whenever it's pretty mobile? Let me tell you, that's a pretty awesome feat. But I did it, and trying to wrangle a pelican, that's a little harder than you would think. Birds don't seem to be too hard to wrangle. Yeah, try wrangling a pelican. That's not fun at all. But so please pick up that. And I always pick up fishing line if I see it. It's going to get picked up, stuck in my pocket, thrown in the trash appropriately. So I don't care if it's only a 3 or 4 inch piece of line. I always pick that stuff up. So how many of you people here in Texas call this a perch? This is what a perch is. They don't live in Texas. That's a yellow perch right there. If you're from the Northeast, they live up there. What we have here are called sunfish. Sometimes called panfish is another name. Brim is another acceptable name. But this is a bluegill, as what type of sunfish this is. There's quite a few different species of sunfish. If you look at what he's eating, this thing up here that's on the end of that hook, it's called a hilgramite. I'll show you some cool stuff on that here in a minute. But those are the best bait you could ever use. Majority of people have never heard of those before. Green sunfish, the bluegill and the green sunfish, I find to be pretty aggressive in a tank when they get to full size. They seem to kill all their fellow inhabitants. And I think a green sunfish is probably even worse than a bluegill. If you're going to have a green sunfish, in my opinion, of my experience, it's better to be alone. I haven't found too much. Even a bass is even bigger than it can kill. So unless you have something pretty big and pretty defensive in there, and I just wouldn't do it. But they make really cool fish. Man, long-eared sunfish, this is one of my favorites to keep in the tank. There's only one thing I think it's better, but these are as beautiful as discus. It's just absolutely stunning fish. You could tell they're a long-eared sunfish because they have this long perculum flap extension, and this color goes all the way around that perculum flap. They're really cool. Beautiful oranges. When they get full grown like this and they're breeding colors, oh man, they're spectacular. And this is in the video coming up too. This has got to be my favorite sunfish to keep. This is just a dollar sunfish. And you're looking at this picture, you're going like, that's you think is pretty and awesome? Well, it is. I'll show you a picture in a second, but check it out. Something I want to point out here. This is a good website to go to. It's koya.com and the sunfishes. He has identification plates like this for all the sunfishes. So it really helps you identify what kind of sunfish you have. One of the things you can look at is the gill rakers. Gill rakers are tucked up underneath of that perculum flap, which is that big old flap around their gill flap right here. If you look back down inside there, you'll see that the gill rakers are kind of protecting the gills, and they do a lot of filtering and a lot of protection in there. So the shape of those, the length of the little teeth on there, the thickness of those teeth, those things can give you an idea of what kind of sunfish you have. So this is what the little dollar sunfish looks like in real life. This is not a great picture of one, but I couldn't get one in my tank. My tanks are 2-inch tannins in them, so it's kind of dark. You can't really see in there. But man, these things are awesome. The great part is that's an adult. They don't get much bigger than that. You know, they stay under 5 inches. So they stay fairly small. You can have a group of those in the tank together, and they'll chase each other and do all that kind of stuff and make a little spawning nest. But man, they are just awesome fish. They eat anything you throw in that tank. They'll make a little, like I said, area where that looks like they kick away the sand. They're very awesome. So, all right, I want to share with you a trip that I went on to. This is Bosque County. This is down around Hyco, Texas. There's a creek, the Bosque River runs right down through there. And I went down there and shot some cool video. It's on my YouTube account. And this was a really good day. I'll show you some techniques. I'll kind of talk through parts of it because I'm not sure you'll be able to hear it right, but hopefully my voice will carry over top of the voice on the video. All right, so what I do here, this is a spawning, what do you call it? Spawning nest. So there is a long-eared sunfish. This is his little spawning nest. So I set my GoPro camera right here on this nest to see what would happen. And I got some pretty cool video of this thing. So they'll come over and they'll move they'll aerate their eggs that are down inside those rocks and defend that nest. So watch this guy, man. Some other fish come in there. He starts defending that ferociously. These guys, you look at him sitting there fanning those eggs. I can't see. I never saw any eggs, but I know there's got to be there. But he will start chasing stuff away. And in a minute here, you'll see some fish that I bet most of you have never even heard of. The lighting changes because it was kind of partly cloudy, so the sun is changing. But look at him, man. He is just defending that thing. That's as pretty as any discus, in my opinion. Those things are just awesome. So here, I put this in because I saw these guys swimming around. Wait till they come in camera. See, I wonder if anybody know what those are? We'll see a better picture of them here in a minute. They're one of bass too, kind of schooling with them. They school and they get about 12 inches or so. And here comes the main school. Should be coming. Here you go. Anybody know what those are? These are gray red horse. They're kind of a native suckerfish. Things like carp are not native to the U.S. So here's the spawning beds I was talking about. If you look in the water, you see those big round circles?
Very normal.
Those are, if you see these big round circles, those are spawning nests. This is where fish will go in, lay their eggs, and raise their fry. You do not want to walk on those. If you see those in the water, please walk around them. And it's not, my personal opinion, it's not really ethical to fish over top of a lot of these things too, because you're disrupting them. But there's some science that says I'm wrong. It really doesn't cause much problems. But please don't walk over top of those and destroy those nests. Walk around them. It's not that hard. In some states, it's actually illegal to fish over top of those nests too. So keep that in mind.
It's like sunfish beds. It's not stepping those.
Yeah, see, I go around them. And I go out there in the water too. This is, if you're not in the water catching fish and exploring, you're missing out.
Oh, Diamondback.
Yeah.
Awesome. Check him out in the water.
Yeah, you'll see snakes in the water sometimes, but
cool.
They'll usually get away from you. I mean, if they're coming towards you, usually trying to get past you to get to a place.
He's doing his thing.
Or they're just kind of checking you out.
Yeah,
they don't have very good eyesight, and something's in the water. Like, oh, what was that?
Oh, there goes the snake. They're probably our same buddy. I'm assuming same size, same species. Let's see if we can follow him. See what he does. Probably just hiding this stuff.
And this stuff on the bottom is all that mold
moving through it
that we get rid of in our aquariums. But that's,
see him right there.
Yeah,
I did. Sorry.
I like the
He's
moment
going
my
that
way.
way. Not much place for him to hide though.
Yeah, it's a rock bottom over there. So he's just kind of cruising along. It's
following
easy
him.
to see.
He's going the same way we are. Another snake down there.
So yeah,
That
you'll run
might
the
be
snakes. Don't be scared of them.
Cotton
They do their
or
thing,
something.
and you do yours.
Let's see.
So you
Oh,
see
what
the
is it?
tools I'm using there
Another
from the
snake?
nets.
About the same one. Yeah, I think they knew to go here and hide.
Yeah, he went under that big stump. There was no getting him. That's where they went and hid.
I'm pretty sure he knew where he was going. I don't know what
So
the
if
other
you're
snake was.
fishing, right along the edge of that log would be a great place to catch fish. Let a bait go underneath of that log. So this is what I want to show you too. Watch how I, catch some small fish and small invertebrates. So I go up along this rock and flip it. Now I'm not just randomly flipping this rock. I am actually flipping it in a certain way. So if you look, I'm putting the net downstream and I'm flipping the rock towards me. So the water shoots straight down through into my net. And there's another subtle thing going on you can't really notice. My left foot is in front of the rock upstream. As I lift that rock up, I twitch my foot back and forth to scare anything that's trying to go upstream. It turns around and goes downstream or away from me. I can't get all four corners, but I can get three of those corners. So I scare fish down into that net, which works really well. And then simply pull up the net. So you lift, twitch your foot, pull the net up. You have to be kind of coordinated. Oops, the wrong button. Let's go back. We'll get you back over there. Yeah, we were just past this. There we go. So I'll do it a couple more times to show you what I mean. And I'll show you some of the stuff I've caught doing this. So put the net down, flip the rock. You see my foot? Well, you can't see my foot twitch. And I pick up the net.
Well, this is a twofer. Come on, kitty fish. Let go of my net. There's a catfish.
That was a channel cat.
Oh man, see their spines have serrations on them.
Little barbs.
And another darter.
So that's not even a colored up one. That one's pretty dull. So this is how you catch some of this stuff. That's a little baby flathead. Those are hard to keep in an aquarium too. Those get gigantic. Still not sure what that is. Probably some kind of hybrid. Almost has no color. Now this is one of the creatures I was talking about. That's a hillgramite. Oh man, I just went too far. So that's a hillgramite. This is a Dobson fly larvae. The Dobson flies get pretty big and they have little pinchers on their front too. The males have giant long pinchers in them. Females have smaller pinchers. They look pretty scary and intimidating. But this is the hillgramite in the water. These things are like leather. That body is like a leather, man. It's really tight and hard and awesome. So you'd run a hook through the main plate here into the body, and I can catch any fish in the river with one of these. I don't care how big or small. I've got small bluegill all the way up to gar. If I don't know anything I can't catch. Drum, everything with these things. And sometimes all in the same hole. I'll catch 5 or 6 species in a small little area the size of a room. So pretty awesome. So it's a pretty productive day. This little container is a container I made. I actually got some plexiglass and some solvent.
I gotta say, if you've never been out walking the creek, you're really missing out. A lot of cool stuff going on. So please, I encourage you to take the time, go out to your nearest creek, in a legal area, get in the water, walk it. It can be an awesome time. Hey, shoot some video too. It's a lot of fun. I have seen multiple species of fish. Caught some darters that I had not seen before in breeding colors, that is. Saw some couple snakes out here in the water. Lots of amphibians. Man, it's been a really good day. So I encourage you, please take the time, go outside, like this video if you enjoy it. Thank you.
Let's see if I can stop sharing that. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Oops, I didn't want to stop the whole presentation. What am I doing? No problem. We can fix that. Give me a second. Making sure you guys are still there, that's all.
we're still here. I'm enjoying what you're presenting. So,
Yeah. So, going to some species. This is the red shiner I was talking about. This one's not even really that colored up in the breeding phase. You can imagine this crank up the intensity by 10. These colors, that blue and that red, just get really bright. Their heads and their fins just glow on you. A small school of these in a 75-gallon aquarium is awesome. These are very big fish. They're only about 3 inches or so at max, but they're so active and they do so well in a group that I would recommend keeping these in like a 55 or bigger, and keeping as many of them as you can safely keep in a tank like that. So keep a dozen of them, 2 dozen. That'll be one of the fascinating tanks. Those things will always be moving around. They'll eat anything you throw in there. They do tend to eat more food than some of the other tropical fish, because the tropical fish are not that active. They have a lower metabolism. These things are like on crack, so they're awesome. I would definitely recommend those. This is I believe, a bullhead shiner, bullhead minnow. These guys are really cool too. If you get these in the central stone rollers, they love to eat algae. The stone rollers, they will clean out a tank really quickly of algae. They are pretty awesome fish. In fact, they're primarily vegetarian fish. They'll eat other fish and they'll eat fish flakes and stuff, but they primarily eat vegetation. So if you have a lot of plants in your tank, I've found that my plants kind of disappear. But so does my algae. Blacktail shiners, this is one that's colored up. He's got really cool colors, that those fins turn really bright yellow like that when they're in breeding colors. Now blacktail, it's just a really cool fish. And then there's a little bit bigger one. That's about an adult size. Maybe a little bigger than that. But check out the head. So look at all those little dots, those little tubulars. The males, when they get into breeding mode, get all these cool little lumpies all over their head. And several species of small fish like this do this. Very easy to keep in the aquarium. I find they tend to need a little higher oxygen level than some other fish. So I have to have an air stone or water movement pretty good in there. I've had them in a tank before with an air stone. Everything was fine. A 75-gallon aquarium with several other fish. The little USB pump I was using died, and the air was not going into it, and I had the tank covered because I was having some problems with some of the red shiners jumping out. Or was it these? Can't remember. But I came back, all of these were dead. And a couple other, the red shiners were dead too. But like the little darters, which hang out in the riffles and things, I thought they'd be dead, but they did fine. In fact, I found they don't need much oxygen. But these, for some reason, needed the extra oxygen and ended up killing a bunch of them off. So that's something to kind of note. And also, when you're transporting them too, I would definitely aerate the container, like the 5-gallon bucket or whatever you're transporting them in. Some fish you don't have to aerate. These you would have to aerate, and some of the other minnows too. I bet a lot of you didn't know that we have the good old mollies. This is just a sailfin molly that I caught down a little bit north of San Antonio. So here in Texas, we have some pretty cool fish. We have these, and I didn't put the Texas. They have Texas cichlids too. This is probably the easiest to keep fish and the most bulletproof there is. Well, maybe water quality wise, there's a couple others be better, but this is the Gambusia or Western mosquito fish. This is a female. She's gravid. Kind of looks like a guppy, even though they're not that closely related to them. They're a live bear, just like a guppy. That's what this pregnancy spot is. And hey, Steve, see the yellow? I've been looking through pictures of these things. Everyone I see, all the gravid females have some gold color back here too, even some blue tinting to them. Anyhow, but the mosquito fish don't seem to have a lot of color. The females don't have a tremendous color. The males look like male guppies. I mean, without the color. They're just like no color and small. They stay smaller, but they have gonopodium just like the other live bears. But they can tolerate the outdoor temperatures. First, they're native to Texas here. And I find them in very shallow water. And at this time of year, when the water temperature is well over 100, it might be 110 at some places. And these guys do just fine. And of course, they survive the winters here too. So long as they don't freeze solid, they're good. They're just a really neat fish to keep. I've heard a lot of people tell me that they're aggressive. So you might have some problems with them being aggressive if you put them in another tank with tropical fish. But personally, I've got them in all kind of stuff. I've got them with endlers. I've got them with guppies. I've got them with bigger fish, all kind of killifish. I put them with all kind of stuff, and they're fine. I've never seen them have any problems. But I don't know. Your mileage may vary. Maybe I have a calm species around here, or calm group of them. This is one actually caught on a hook. I'll show you that in a little bit here. How I do this. It's called microfishing. But yep, anybody can catch a bass. Man, that's easy. Try catching an 1.5 2 inch long fish on a hook. Yeah, good luck. Another cool darter. I love darters. Keeping them in an aquarium. They're like little tiny water dogs. I mean, water puppies, man. These things will come up right up to the tank. They kind of walk along with their pectoral fins. They can swim up to the top, but they don't have a swim bladder, so they can't float and regulate their level in the water. So they're either on the bottom or they're swimming up or swimming around. They can get in the plants and they can kind of climb up through the plants to get to the top. But generally, you find them on the bottom, cruising around. They'll come right up when they know you're going to feed them. They're cool little fish. And if you sit back and just watch them, they just have this cool little personalities. When they're looking around for food, they're flipping stuff over and they're hunting. They're absolutely fascinating fish. I would definitely recommend somebody getting some of these darters in a small 5 to 10 gallon aquarium, put on a desk somewhere where you can watch them, and you'll have a blast. And these guys come in lots of different colors depending on what species. This is a orange-throated darter. We have a ton of these things around here if you know where to look. That's the key, and when and how to catch them. I was catching fish around here for a long time and never ran into one of these. And then when I found them, oh man, they're everywhere. Easy to catch. This is a same species, but a much darker one. This was just a weird one. Found it in a river. I've never seen one that dark, but it's an orange-throated darter. Just a really dark one. This is in the darter family too. These are log perch. I believe this is Texas log perch. They're just as cool as the darters, the other orange throat, but they're bigger. These get about, I've seen these about 4.5 inches or so. Really cool, fascinating in tanks, man. These things are neat. They can be out competed by other fish. If you're going to keep them with other fish, make sure it's making it to the bottom, kind of like a corridora. Think of them as feed them like a corridora, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to be on the bottom most of the time. They'll kind of swim up and try to grab some food, but just kind of overfeed a little bit, make sure something gets down there to them. I like this. This is a type of killifish. This is a top minnow. This is a black striped top minnow. These get through 3.5 inches, maybe, not quite 4, but they get pretty good size. They're usually at the top of the surface, like the name implies. Top minnow, eat about anything you throw in the tank. Very peaceful fish. You can put these with anything that won't fit in their mouth or won't beat them up. They're just a really nice aquarium fish. I'd highly recommend them. They don't have the stunning bright colors, but that black and some of the subtle colors is really nice fish. There's another picture one. We have another one in the area too. It's called the black spotted top minnow, and it looks just like this, but has a little bit of a speckling across the top half there of their body, which makes them and they're shaped slightly differently, but very subtly. This is one of my favorites. This is a killifish. These are plains killifish. It's kind of a bland picture, but the male on top, his fins will start turning red. They got a lot of reds in those fins, and those bands will get darker. So he's this really cool rainbow colored, zebra colored. Zebrus is their scientific species name, which makes it kind of cool. You see why they're the zebra pattern. They don't get very big. 2 inches is about as big as they get. Pretty quick fish to swimming around. Make pretty good aquarium fit. They want to jump out, so you got to get a good cover top. There's a better picture of one. That kind of gives you an idea what they really look like. Very cool fish. I very enjoy catching these guys and keeping them. They don't seem to live very long. They're short-lived fish, unfortunately. Man, another top minnow. This is a golden top minnow. This is a male with you can't see it in this picture. The next picture, I think you can, but they have a lot of gold flecks inside their body. It looks like they have glitter, like gold glitter just under their skin. Man, just a really neat fish. So I can't believe people aren't keeping that one. But when they're in the water and they're swimming, that all just looks like glitter in their body. It just blows my mind that more people aren't keeping these things. They're so easy to keep, easier to keep than a lot of the tropicals, because they tolerate temperatures really high, really low, Water quality doesn't really matter that much. I've caught them in very soft, slightly acidic water, and my water's kind of hard, but really high pH, like at 8.5 or 8.6 pH. They're fine. They don't care. This one's not very pretty, but it's a big killifish. This thing can get up to 6-7 inches, maybe an 8 inches long. Big old beefy killifish. Not much color. The males have that kind of yellow color on them. Easy to keep fish. They're a little more aggressive. I wouldn't keep them with anything that's smaller. Just kind of a neat fish to keep, kind of unique. I've bred those at the house here just to see if I could. They're really easy to breed. Breed just like any other tropical killifish with the spawning mop and lay their eggs in there. Just a fascinating. Now these guys. This is another type of killifish. It's a pupfish that's called a sheephead minnow. Absolutely awesome. This is a female. That little black dot and all that barring on her makes her a female. The males, if I have nope, there might be some males in there somewhere. But that's more of what they look like when you catch them. That was a whole big old net of them. I couldn't believe I caught that many of them. But the males don't have as much color pattern on the side. They don't have that black little dot on their dorsal fin. But they have these blue iridescent patches that go start from their nose on top of their head, and it V's back, it Y's back across their body about halfway down. And it's just blue iridescence that's incredibly intense. You won't see when you first catch them. And if you take them somewhere like the killifish show, like I did, it's not going to show up. They fade away. I was told if the fish I put in that show, if they were showing any of that blue at all, they would have calmed down and colored up a little bit. They would have been best in show easily. So they're just spectacular little fish. Super active, chase each other. You get a small group of them. The males will chase each other, and they'll chase the males, and the females will get chased, and they'll chase around. They're always in there interacting. Kind of look like corridors a little bit, but way more active. And they're trying to establish territories, but they don't ever hurt each other. They don't mess with other fish either. I have endlers and stuff in with these guys. And they get over about 2.5 inches long, kind of beefy and bulky fish. Just incredible. I would highly recommend keeping these guys. They'll eat anything you throw in there. If you have a nice thick sandy bottom and kind of open, they'll dive down into the sand, disappear when they see you coming. So it's like, oh man, where'd all my fish go? Because I had a bunch of them in a 20-gallon long. Walk in there and I'm like, there's only 2 fish in the tank. And I had like 10. Like, oh man, I'm looking on the floor, looking how'd they get out of the tank? Come back a little later and there's fish all over the tank. I'm like, what the heck? So I started watching. Actually, I started a camera on to see what was going on. And caught them on camera diving underneath the sand with nothing but their little noses sticking out and eyeballs sticking out of the sand. And I've actually got underwater video of them doing that too, and chasing each other around and having a good time. Just an absolutely cool fish to have. Like again, that was a pretty good group of them. So if you're catching a group of them like this without much problem, this might be a good place to catch, and collect, 2 or 3, 4 of them to take home. Get you a female, or a couple of females and a male, or a couple of males and 3 or 4 females, and you're going to enjoy that tank. They seem to eat algae, and I think they eat other plants, because every time I put plants in there, the plants are gone. So I think they're eating the plants too. So I think they're omnivores, but I'm not convinced. I've never seen them eating a plant, and maybe something else is going on with that tank, but it's kind of odd. They always disappear. Now this is called the least killifish. You could find these guys for sale on the internet. A lot of people have them, but they're not even a killifish. They're a live bearer. A killifish is a egg-laying tooth carp is how they're classified as. So they lay eggs. I think there's like one possible exception, but it's not even sure where it's supposed to be classified. But this is definitely not a killifish, even though it's called a least killifish. You can find these in Florida all the way through, and there's actually a population now around Houston area that are natural and native to the area. They believe the hurricanes and things move them around a little bit, so that'd be a natural occurrence. So that would be a natural fish, a native fish now, which are pretty neat. They just have a baby every couple of days. They every day they might lay a baby, might lay every other day, have a baby. It's kind of neat. They don't just have clutches like a guppy. You don't have a big clutch. You don't have a bunch of babies come out at one time. These are just constantly like a conveyor belt, just spitting babies out. It's kind of neat. This guy for a long time probably still is my favorite fish in the fish room. This I caught is a little fry about 3 inches long, and this is a grass pickerel. These can get around 12, 14 inches maximum. So they need a little bigger tank, and they're going to eat live fish. This is one of the ones you're not going to get to eat pellets or flake foods. This guy is going to want either, pieces of fish cut up, and you can put it in your tweezers or just drop it in there and they'll eat it that way. But they're not going to be wanting to eat pellets or whatever. You can throw them live fish, and man, watching them hunt is neat. It's almost like snake-like. They'll kind of pose. They'll get themselves in position real slowly. They'll kind of cock the tail a little bit, and then boom, they shoot off like a little dart and nail what they're going to eat, and then move it around in their mouth and swallow it whole, just kind of like a snake. That's why I kind of like them, I guess. They're kind of snake-like, and they're shaped that long, thin torpedo shape. Man, they're just a awesome little hunter to watch eat. You got to have but highly recommend to plant a tank with some top cover, some top plants on there, kind of thick. See all that? This is right at the surface. You see all the plants are coming up there. They can get in there and hide. And trust me, that thing now is like about a 6-inch long fish. It gets in a 20-gallon aquarium, 20-gallon long, with all the plants in there. I can't find it sometimes. I don't know where it's at. I got to stick my finger in there, make it move, or drop a little small fish in there to see it move. It's just gone. It's like, that is absolutely amazing camouflage. This was a cool fish too. Unfortunately, it passed away, and I don't know why. This is a bowfin. These can get pretty good size. So you get a pretty good size tank, and I was prepared to get, these can get 18 inches, maybe 2 foot in an aquarium. Out in the wild, they can get a little bigger than that. So these are big fish. But that, if you ever watch them, that top fin, man, it just kind of gets this wave-like, and it can actually use it to back up and go forward. It's mesmerizing when you see these guys moving through the water. They're absolutely incredible. They're a serious hunter too. They're going to be wanting to eat other fish or pieces of fish. But this thing was eating great, doing wonderful, and it came in one down its belly up. It kind of broke my heart because I really wanted that fish to survive. He was turning into a really cool fish. All right, this is one fish here that if you guys can keep alive in the aquarium for a year, I would be impressed. I'd be impressed if you can get them home alive. This is a silverside, inland silverside to be precise. These little fish are by the thousands in my water. I can just throw a net in the water and catch 5 or 6 of these every net. I mean, there's everywhere, but they're so fragile that usually by the time I get them home, they're all dead. And I recently found out that the trick is to never let them leave the water. So when you net them, keep the net underwater, keep them in the water, but in the net, and then scoop a little scoop, whatever, of water, kind of a cup or something to scoop them up into, and then carefully transport them home. They're real sensitive to nitrates or to ammonia, it seems like too. So you might want to take a little bit of dechlorinator with you, because a lot of that stuff will, what do you call that? Not all the dechlorinator won't, but there's a big popular one everybody uses, like Safe, that kind of thing. You put a little bit of that in there, and it'll bind up the ammonia for a while, for a couple of days, but you don't need it for a couple of days. You just need it temporarily. So usually I proactively or prophylactically stick some in there, catch one of those guys, transport it home, and hopefully any ammonia gets in the water gets caught up and absorbed in that, and it keeps it from being toxic to the fish. And then it didn't get into a tank. I've been able to keep one of those about 3 or 4 of my life for about 6 months. One time, I've been able to do it again. So they are really sensitive. That's what's kind of cool about the native keeping. Some of these fish are bulletproof, super easy. Anybody can keep them. Other ones are advanced levels, and anywhere in between. So you can't say the natives are easy or hard to keep. It's all the above. You just got to know what kind of fish you're dealing with. And of course, this is how I fish. My favorite way of fishing. My wife likes to go out with me too. We're in the water and waist deep, usually knee deep or waist deep if I can get that far. But this is the Brazos River. Nice little catfish. And of course, every once in a while I catch a gar. If you ever catch a gar, you got to watch those teeth. First time I was kind of new to Texas, never caught a gar. Hooked about a 4-foot gar. Comes up, and I thought, oh, look at that great little handle right there in the front of its face. And I reached down and grabbed a hold of their nose, their beak, their mouth. And I didn't realize that their teeth actually poke out a little bit. They crisscross and they stick out. When I grabbed the hold of it, I realized that a handful of teeth, and I just watched that fish thrash around a minute ago. I instantly let it go. Luckily, it didn't thrash, because if you have your hand on that thing's mouth and it starts thrashing around, you're going to get hurt. There's just no way around it. So That's why I've kind of got a tight grip, because they're really hard. They got armor on them. Some of the bigger, the alligator gar, some of the Native Americans would use their skin as a shield, because that stuff is tough. And they're really good eating, I've heard. I'm trying to catch one to try it, but you have to get through all that exoskeleton they have there, all that, not really an exoskeleton, but it's like all that, the scales, it's kind of like a shield on them. You get through all that to get to the meat across the back. One word of warning: if you're going to eat these, do not eat their eggs. Their roe is toxic. Just stay away from their eggs. It's not caviar. That's cool little flat-headed catfish. Man, you have to have a big tank for one of these things. These get gigantic in size. But it's just kind of cool to see little babies like this, little tiny fry. Oh, there we go. Texas cichlid. This is one I caught down near, who was this one at? Oh, this was Austin, just north of Austin. And what's the name of that? There's a little town north of Austin. There's a creek that runs through it. But anyhow, there's tons of Texas cichlids down there. If you go to my YouTube for Texas fish, you'll see some underwater video of some fry, of these guys newly laid fry, with the fish kind of hanging around, and she was guarding it, and ended up getting my GoPro wrap in there. Pretty cool experience to watch these guys. Another example of how we go fishing. It's a good friend of mine. He's going to be helping me out with the venomous snake training coming up too. He's actually the wildlife rehabber. It's Mario Nickerson and his wife. They run Nature's Edge Wildlife Rescue, and I'm sub-permitted under him. Here's next video. Okay. This is way cool, man. I was talking about the Hilgramites. This is them out hunting one night. I found these guys out hunting. This was absolutely amazing. I had no idea they did this. I've always found them under rocks, like I was doing in the other video, flipping rocks. That's how I find the Hilgramites. Take them and you put them on your line, catch any fish downstream from there you want. I was out in the Paluxy, ran across this. This, you won't be able to see it in the video, but it's like a plateau, like a flat rock area that a little stream comes into, and it runs off of that plateau down into the Paluxy River. So it's like a little waterfall, but it doesn't really fall. It just kind of runs along the rocks as it goes down. So this water is only, 1/10 of an inch deep or so. But check this out.
Here's another one too. Unfortunately, my battery's too low for the flash on the camera, so I have to use my headlamp. Huh. And another one. That's crazy.
And I don't know what they're eating. I don't know if they're scavenging for mosses, algae, other small invertebrates. I have no idea what they eat. It's just kind of awesome to watch them
here.
So if you've never been out at nighttime, I love going out, going through the river and the creeks and stuff at night. You got to try that. Just go out there at nighttime. There's a whole different level and different things that go on at night. Animals act differently. Some fish are really hard to find at nighttime because they hide up in the heavy leaf litter, or not, well, leaf litter too, and up in the vegetation, just disappear. Other ones come out more at night. And when you hit them with your flashlight, a lot of times it's a lot easier to net them because you kind of blind them and they don't know what to do. So you can net them easier. So you can catch a different set of fish a lot of times at night. Sometimes big gar or carp and stuff like that will be sitting in shallow water. You can walk right up to them. You can even just pick them out of the water sometime. It's just pretty cool. So I love that video. And that was a really cool experience that I've never seen anybody shoot any kind of video or ever heard about that before in my life. So I thought that was pretty cool. I bet a lot of you didn't know that we have a freshwater crabs that live in the area. Here in the Brazos River, these are completely freshwater. I've kept these in my tanks. They're called Harris's mud crabs. And there's also called white, white tipped or white tip claw, white clawed crabs. I can't remember the other name. Man, I wish I had the scientific name on the top of my head and I forgot it. I'd have to look it up. But these make awesome little aquarium fish. As you can see, these guys are about inch and a half long, wide. Their carapace or the top shell at maximum, but usually they're about an inch wide. I can go in at the rocks at the shoreline, look under at the rocks there and pick them up and take them home. They will make a little burrow if you have a rock or something in there. They'll go into that little rock and make a little burrow, and they'll sit there and just siphon and pick through the sand or whatever kind of substrate you had. I've never seen them attack or harm another fish or anything. So they're awesome. I love those little things. Watch them. And sometimes you're walking along and it's like, okay, what the heck is that? And you go, why is there a llama sitting in the middle of the river? This was just kind of like, okay, so now it's like, that thing's big enough to hurt me. I have no idea if it's friendly or not. So it's like, it's probably used to people, so it's probably not going to run away from me. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going that direction. Let's turn around and go the other way. Because I'm pretty brave. I like playing with venom, but I can handle venomous snakes and do all this stuff. But when you got a big mammal like that could stomp you into the dirt, it's like, I know nothing about that animal. I'm going the other way. But that was kind of cool to see that. There's part of the crew we took out, going out looking for fish. Look at the tools they have. That's the little nets that I love. I've got a better photo of those here in a minute. But those fish are taking kids out like this, man. They enjoy it so much, and they remember this to this day. It was one of the best days they ever had. Just getting them out here. You see how shallow the water is. There's nobody's going to drown in that little bit of water. But there's all kind of fish in there. There's invertebrates. The kids just like laying down in the water and let the water run over them. Man, we go out to the creeks like this, we're going to get wet completely, soaking wet. So here's some of the equipment that we like to use. Make sure I'm not skipping over anything. Looking at my notes, make sure that, okay, we're good. So here's some of the tools that I like to use. This is one of my favorite nets. If you look, that's how bigger it is. And these are at Walmart, $5 at Walmart. So go to Walmart, get you a net, and the net in the middle there is beat up. That's what it should look like if you're using it right. And notice that it's not round on top, it's flat. I forgot to flatten the other two out, but flatten them out like that so you can get a clear on the bottom. You're scraping across the bottom. That's what tears up the net, but that's okay because I have a fix for that. You zip tie it. So you run the zip ties through that seam. I don't know if my pointer will show up or not, but there's a seam right there where they've sewn the loop around. Well, you include that seam, go around that metal bar. Now you can't break it again. That plastic is going to hold up on a zip tie way better than this cloth would. So now you can rake that across the bottom. And that's what I highly recommend. If you're using one of these nets, you go all the way to the bottom, rake it across the bottom. If you're not tearing your net up, you're probably not doing it right. And you go as fast as you can across the bottom. These fish are fast. So you don't worry about, going real dainty unless you got at nighttime and you're sneaking up on one. Yeah, it's different. But man, when you're out there, you're just swatting as hard as you can and catching them. It's one of my favorite nets. I did get for Christmas last year one of Jonah's ultimate nets. Those work awesome. I really like those nets, but I still carry one of these around for times that the net is too big. Some of those nets are too wide. You got areas between rocks that the fish are wanting to cruise through that you need a smaller net, and these work great for that. Of course, the good old minnow net, a minnow trap. And I liked for bait, just take that's just window screening, piece of window screening that was probably an old screen top from an aquarium or something. Fold that sucker up into a pouch, throw some dog food in there, and you're good. Toss the whole thing into the trap. So that's awesome. I was going to point out too, when you're using little nets like this, one of the techniques I like to use, instead of just going straight to the creek and start swatting at fish, sometimes you just walk along and observe. Look at what they're doing. Look at the fish's habits. If there's a school of fish, when you spook them from different angles, where do they go? And sometimes you'll see that they go through a pinch point, which means there's two bigger rocks that are kind of out of water, and there's a narrow section in the middle. And if you spook them from one side, they always go through that little chute. Now you can use that to your advantage. You can stick a net right there where they're gonna spook to, and come up and spook them, and one go straight into your net. So as soon as they go into your net, you just lift your net straight out of the water, and you got all the fish that were in that whole school, or most of them. So that's where these come in real handy too. You can get away with doing that, especially for some of the smaller species. So whenever that. How are we on time, guys? You guys want to keep going? Go to a stopping point once I get through some of these?
How much do you have much longer of the presentation? It seems to me like we're almost towards the end, aren't we?
Yeah, we're somewhat towards the end. Yeah, we could probably got 20 minutes or so.
Okay, no, let's just go ahead and go through them.
Okay, cool. So
That's up to you, Mark. Whatever,
hey, I'm
whatever
good.
you want to do.
I'm not in a big hurry, so I've got
Unless
plenty
we
of time.
want to, people in the chat, you guys are welcome to give us some feedback too as to, do you guys want to continue? Do you guys want to put a pin in it and come back to it next week? Let us know.
Yeah, and if you got any questions, put it in the chat and just interrupt me and let me know the questions anybody has. So I can't really see the chat right now. So anyhow, so when I'm out trying to catch some of these smaller fish, obviously I got to use a smaller hook. And there's something called microfishing that I alluded to earlier. Microfishing is catching the smaller fish with a hook and reel, or at least a hook and rod. So some of the fish, the sizes I like to use, start with the number 14, so probably about the biggest size of hook that I use. I get down to all the way down to 32s, like size 32. A little harder to find. You gotta do a little digging to find the ones you want. But these are really good for smaller fry, like even bass fry. Of course, I'm not targeting bass fry, but something like maybe a small bluegill. 3-inch long little bluegill. And you're wanting to catch those guys, use these little tiny hooks like this. Works much better than a bigger hook. In fact, all the bluegill, I wouldn't go for a really big bluegill because I'll swallow it. But I use small bluegill. Work great on these. And I use just a piece of worm on something like this. And I just pinch off a tiny piece that's kind of as long as, if you're looking where my thumb is at on the right, where the barb is at, that shaft, a piece of worm about the length of that part of the hook. And just stick it over top and just barely have the point of that hook sticking out of the worm. That's all you need. You don't need a worm that covers the whole thing. You just need a tiny bit on the end. So when they bite that end, it's where you want to get that hook in their mouth so you can hook them. This is one of the smaller hooks that I use. This one, before I found smaller hooks, once I learned about this, I had to do it. So I actually made my own hook. So I made that hook. Just for microfishing. You're probably wondering, how in the world did I make it that small? What I used was a pinning needle. If you collect bugs or anything about bug pinning, you get the little stainless steel pins they use for pinning bugs, pinning invertebrates, any kind of insects. And I took one of those pinning needles and a very small set of pliers that I had that have a round ends on them. Instead of like a flat end, they're just round. And they were used, I think, for like when I was working in helicopter gyros, there's little clips in there that had little round circles. You used to stick them in there and pop the clips open. But anyhow, so I used that little thing and twisted those things around. And pliers to bend the back end, to link the eye, hook onto it. So I have to use number 4 or a 4-pound or 2-pound test line and tie onto these things because everything else is too big. I don't think 6-pound test line will even go through that eye that I made. There's no barb on it, which is good and bad. The barb makes it easier to get the fish off without hurting it. But the barb also makes it easier for the fish to flip off. Because as soon as you get the fish out of the water, they start thrashing around. And a lot of times they'll flip themselves off that little barb, which kind of sucks. Here's another hazard that you need to think about when you're out. Look at this picture. Put in the chat if you can see anything dangerous in this picture at all, or what I'm talking about. This is something that I'm always looking out for, and this is the first time I've ever found one this close to the water, for sure. And the only time I've never found another one like this. But if you notice down there is a rattlesnake. Can anybody see the rattlesnake? It was a small young rattlesnake, and I was flipping rocks looking for Brazos water snakes, actually, because the Brazos water snake is an endemic snake that's a threatened species that I'm doing some research on that lives really close to the water's edge. So that's what I flipped over instead. So luckily I was paying attention, didn't reach in there and try to grab it. So just kind of watch where you're walking, watch where you're putting your feet when you're around the water's edge. You have no idea what's kind of lurking nearby. It's nothing to be worried about. I've never had any close calls or run-ins, and I'm out there an awful lot. I mean, I'm looking for snakes, and I am trying as hard as I can to find them. And this is the only time I've ever even found a rattlesnake that close to the water. but it's possible. Just kind of keep your eye out. And actually, that was actually the end of my presentation. This part, the PowerPoint part. So let me switch back over to StreamYard. Disable this. Here we go. There we go. Should be back. But I have some more stuff to go over, but that's the end of the PowerPoint. If anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, I'm kind of fascinated with all the stuff you guys have out there. I mean, I guess it's true when they say that Texas does it big, and you guys do with all these different native species out there.
Oh, yeah.
You have some really, really, really nice fish. I've been out here to the areas that I have near the Colorado River, but unlike you, I'm not getting in the water yet. And for the same reason where you said don't get scared about snakes, I don't know. Me and snakes, as much as I'm trying to get over fear of snakes, it's really been a work in progress. I've gotten now at least where I can pet a ball snake, a ball python, but yeah. But
well, hey man, I'm really
real.
Oh yeah, the fear is, and I'm very proud of you for trying. A lot of people don't even try, so you got my respect for at least trying. And it's a fear that a lot of people have, and it takes a little bit. I used to love my two daughters. I've got two daughters. I used to love having them out at educational events, and them have a snake in their hand and have them talk to people about stuff. That's a really good way to get over their fears of snakes. Having the kids do it and show a little girl holding the snake and she's all happy and everything. That worked really well. But it's just something you gotta desensitize yourself to. You gotta be involved with it and see them. And if you live closer, it'd probably be no big deal. I'd have you cured in no time, because it's a whole different atmosphere, and it's the way I do things. Kind of relaxes people, and I never ever scare anybody with a snake. You'll never see me chasing or pulling pranks on people, even with fake snakes. I don't do that. Well, I take that back. I do play pranks on people with fake snakes, but it's other snake herpers that were out driving around looking for snakes. You'll take a rubber snake, throw it out in the road, watch them slam on their brakes and jump out of the car, and then laugh at them. 3D print me a snake out there and do it. So yeah,
I think it's like everything else. The fear in reality is the lack of information. That's really what it boils down to. And it's just once you start learning more about these animals, that's why. As much as I hated snakes when Big Tank Hank started bringing some of the herpers on, I made it a point to watch these interviews, because one, you're getting the information, but you're also seeing the species that's being presented, and even though they still kind of make my skin crawl, there's something about the texture of the snake that just I don't know. It's just, but the more and more that I learn about them, the more and more that I see people interact with them, and I see the things, the do's and don'ts, the little bit more comfortable I tend to feel. But I'm still, a
lot of people don't know what to expect, especially on a wild snake. What they don't even think about it. They just know, they don't know what to expect, so they just get scared automatically that something could happen. You go out with me, you find some snakes in the wild, you can see how they interact with them. You're gonna go, oh, that's it. That's nothing. People call me out for a venomous snake. How could you get this snake by my front porch? Sure, I walk out there, I take my tongs, pick it up, stick it in a bucket, put the top on. They're going, that's it? Yeah, that's it. And they're like, oh, well, what would you expect? Well, I didn't know. It's because I didn't really stop and think about how that whole thing would work out. So it's just have to show people. Instead of telling people, I like to show people. That's why all my videos and things are out there trying to show people what these things are. But I did have some more stuff to go over. I've got time. So, there's a lot of conservation stuff you can do. And I'm trying to do that by doing presentations like this. I actually have done a couple now of taking snakes out to nature centers when they're having some kind of festival going on. When I used to do snake show events like this, I used to take out tons of snakes and put them on display and help people overcome their fears or learn what we have. Now I'm doing the same thing with fish. So I think that's one of the really important things about conservation is just show people what's out there. You can't even begin to conserve something if you don't even know it exists. So step one, get the public more aware of what's out there and what they've got in their own waterways. And then we can worry about trying to do all the nuts and bolts of how to actually conserve it. But you got to get people interested first. And that's a big problem right now. You can't go anywhere and find all these smaller species of fish. You can't go to a zoo. You can't go to an aquarium. There's no place to go to see them. So that's a major hole I think we have in our zoo programs. There's a couple zoos around here, like the Waco Zoo has some on display. Have a really cool Brazos River exhibit, and they have some of these fish, but not very many. I mean, I want a whole exhibit hall, man. We have so many species of fish here in the U.S. of not native, not all the game fish, bass, bluegill, gar, all that stuff. Everybody knows about that. It's all those other fish out there. There's hundreds of species that nobody knows about or no one's ever seen. Those need to be on display. And I think that'll really change things. If anybody's got any ideas about, how to get people more involved in conservation, man, I'm all ears, because that's something I'm passionate about. Conservation with all kind of wildlife. It doesn't, not specifically anything.
Well, when you were talking about that conservation, so like we got a few. Well, no, we got more than a few. So you mentioned the snake, the Brazos water snake, but like when we were at Taco, we were talking about the Comanche Springs, the pupfish.
I had a friend go out there recently, just a couple days ago, was out there catching them. That was kind of
that
cool.
one. We almost lost that one a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So like that's one of those ones that people could keep. And then when you were doing the presentation, you were explaining the different niches that each fish lives in. So if somebody wanted to set up a tank, because people can be quick to rattle off what should go in a tank from another country, your bottom feeders, your mid-level, your top, and that's good. But being able to, first of all, know we have all these species and then know which one, so you can actually build an ecosystem if you wanted to make a native community tank. I think being able to get the methodology to where it's sustainable for the average person, because something that you said, some of these fish are tougher than woodpecker lips, and some of them are hard as hell to keep. This ain't one of them. It's wide range. Everybody, it's entry level, and everybody can get in, but you got to do it.
Yeah. Yep. And you got to learn about them. So one of the good ways to do that was with the books. This is the Peterson's Guide.
Yeah,
I like this one. It's really useful. It's not I like how it's missing up here. Anyhow, I like how it's laid out. It's got a lot of useful information, but it's for the whole country. They have some pictures on here are pretty good. I like the pictures are really well done, colored pretty nicely. So that's the good things about it, but it does cover the whole country. So it's harder to narrow down what's like in Texas, and every state, but most states will have some type of resource out there about the fishes that you can find in your area. And something like, this, which is one of my favorites for Texas.
I like that book.
Freshwater Fishes of Texas is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But the pictures suck because the pictures are like a preserved species a lot of the time. So it looks nothing like the animals you're going to find in the wild. It was so bad that the first time I found one of those golden top minnows, they're very identifiable, man. They got sparkles all through them. They got really cool red colors.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a nature center, at the Fort Worth Nature Center, and they were having a bio blitz. I was in charge of the reptiles and amphibians, and I was taking people around that we were trying to find everything we could have documented on iNaturalist as part of this project for the weekend. Well, I walk over this little bridge and look down, and I saw some gambusia down there. Didn't think much about it. Then I saw these gambusia-looking things with red tail. I'm going, gambusia don't have no red tail. What the heck is that? I do not know what that is. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm at the nature center. You're not supposed to just go collecting stuff out there. But I was like, wait a second. We're at a bio blitz, man. I could do what I need to do now. So I'll rent my car, which is just right there. Of course, I've always got all kind of gear in my car. Go get my net, come over there, net some of them up, and I get in my hand, photograph them, going, I don't know what this is. I have no clue. And I've studied this book inside and out. I thought I knew the fish. And so I was like, I don't know what this is. So luckily, we have the guy that runs the nature center up there was Rob Dankhouse. He used to be the editor for the, what's it called? The Currents, American Currents, which is the journal for the North American Native Fish Association, NAMFA. So he used to do that for years. So he's really good at fish. So I sent him a picture. I said, man, what is this? He goes, oh, that's just the golden top minnow. They're all over the place. I was like, what? No way. Open a book up and going, well, there's why I don't know what it is, because it doesn't look like, what it looks like in a book. I never would have recognized that. So, go online, go to places like iNaturalist is an awesome resource. If you go on to iNaturalist, you can go up to explore and you can hit like fish, just every fish. And then you can go and say, okay, my area, where you're sitting right now, to put the GPS coordinates up, or you can put like all the state of Texas, and it'll pull up every fish species that's ever been entered in the iNaturalist for the whole state. You're going to come up with a huge number of fish, a huge number of observations, and the whole map's going to be red, except for maybe way out west Texas where it's just desert. Then you can zoom in on that map and say, okay, search this area. And if it's your area, boom, it pops up all the observations of all the fish in your area or the area you're interested in. So you want to go to a certain area. You highlight that area, you say, okay, what fish are there? And then you can look through all the observations, click on them, and see what people found from their photos, what the actual looks like that in that area. And then you could drill down. You could do all kind of other stuff. You could back up. You can look at, so you look through the species in that area, all the species people found. Oh, I didn't know that was there. Wonder where it's at, or what exactly does it look like? Then you go back to explore, type in that name of that fish you're looking for, and boom, it'll pop up all the observations for however big a search area you do in your map. And then you can click on those. Okay, oh, wait, that's my backyard. That's the creek right there. Click on that. Who found that? And you can either go to contact the person that found that fish. Hey, could you take me out and show me this? And a lot of people will go, sure, come on out. That's how I found the bluefin killifish.
I was just going to ask you about that. Like stuff that's not supposed to, I didn't know that was there. So
yeah.
How do you think they got there? Like the transportation, it's a lot of stuff we've covered, but what are your theories?
Well, it had to be moved by people. People brought them there. That I can guarantee. The actual mechanism, if it was intentional, not intentional, how it happened, there's no way of knowing. You'll never know that. But I think it's pretty safe to say it was people, because those typically live on the East Coast, Florida, maybe over Georgia, I think area, but that's like as close as they get to us. That's a long ways away. So it'd be unlikely that another animal or another mechanism would have brought them from there all the way over to near Dallas, Texas.
Right.
So there has to be human interaction there somehow. And I don't know how. It could be intentional. It could have been just on plants. It could have been mixed up with something.
Probably.
Yeah, there are killifish, so they may not have the plants may have stayed wet enough that kept the eggs alive long enough, because you could do that with killifish, even the ones that aren't annuals, the non-annuals, you can keep them on like peat moss, just keep them damp, wet at all, use slightly damp. So you could see on a plant somehow that was in the underwater, and then it kind of kept damp long enough, it got transplanted, or somebody had a bunch of them, dumped them out. I don't know. It's a million different ways it could have got there, but it's impossible to tell. But things like that you need to kind of be aware of. But there's some organizations like NAMFA, if you're really interested in these native fish, man, next year there's an opportunity coming up I'm going to take advantage of at all costs. It's my number one thing that I'm planning to do next year on my calendar. Let me see if I can find the date for sure to make sure I get it right. It's going to be in May, and it's going to be, it's not on I didn't put it on my calendar yet. Dang it. I believe it's going to be not May, it's June. Oh, I did too. June 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. They're going to do their field meet, their convention, they call it, but it's like a big field meet. They go outside and they take a bunch of people and they go collecting fish in the native waterways. I mean, it is awesome. They have some guest speakers there. Some of my friends that I know in the area are planning on going. The people that are like Rob Dankhouse, the guy who used to be the editor, he's thinking about going. He's trying to. Some of the other guys that I do fish stuff with are going, oh yeah, man, we got to go there. So that would be the number. If you're interested in native fish across the country, anywhere in the United States, join that group, come out and get in the water and learn some stuff. And it's going to be at Broken Bow, Oklahoma, is where they're going to do their next meet out, which is about 4 hours something for me. I'm going, oh man, that's in my backyard practically. Normally I do it like over in South Carolina or somewhere way up north, and it's like 16-hour drive or more. And I'm going, it's kind of far. This is like, oh man, I'm going. I got to go. So hopefully I meet some of you guys out there too. That would be awesome. So I'd highly recommend joining that group and getting involved in that. That'd be awesome. So what else? I already mentioned the the KOAW.org. That's the website. He does a really good job. He has lots of different specialties, but for the sunfish, he has some videos on YouTube. He's got a lot of in-depth information about each species of those sunfish. He's done a lot of research into them. So if you really want to learn how to identify some of the bluegill from the long-eared sunfish, from the dollar sunfish, whatever, that's the go-to place, in my opinion. He's got some really good information. And some of those sunfish can hybridize, and a lot of them look very similar. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to figure it out that easy. It's hard to figure those out. iNaturalist, I mentioned. The iNaturalist is awesome. And then you got the online, thefishesoftexas.org. That's a good place to go to. That's more of a little more scientific side of things. So if you want to really dig in deep and you want to know, more about real details on things, go there. It's a good database. There's FishBase too. FishBase is another good spot on the internet to go, looking for where the fish are at and more information about stuff. FishBase is awesome. And of course, the only thing I had left to talk about was captive care. We kind of touched on that, how you got to kind of know what species you've got to figure out how to keep it. But in general, if you keep most of those fish in just a tank like you would keep like tetras or whatever in, unheated, normally they're unheated, you're going to do fine. Now, that's for Texas fish. If you're in the north, especially the north, northeast, even northwest, I guess, all the way up north where the water temperatures are cooler, or mountainous areas where the water temperatures are cooler, some of those fish have to be kept cold. I mean, 60s are hot for them. So you got to keep those in the 50s, and they really need to have chillers and stuff. That's when things get advanced. When you start to have chillers for your aquariums, it makes things much more difficult and more expensive. But I haven't kept a lot of stuff from other parts of the country. I'm hoping that changes. I got invited to go to South Carolina to go looking for some snakes and stuff, and go looking for fish too, because I didn't know much about fish. And I'm going, man, I'm dying to go. Just got to find the time and the money. So when you're in the field too, and you're bringing these stuff back to your house, I like to use things like this. You can use any of those little battery-powered bubblers that are designed for people. See if I can get it to, yeah. So, fishermen use them all the time. You go to Walmart and buy the battery-powered. These just work really good because they're USB. So if you just got a battery pack, USB battery pack, or you got a little charging cord in your car, you can plug this up to your car, and you don't have to worry about your batteries going dead. So it's just nice to have. These are nice to have around just in case you have a pump air pump die on you. You can hurry up, throw one of those on a tank within minutes, and you got something to go. Power goes out, you can hook that to a battery. You don't have to worry about your power, and they last a long time. Those things sip power. Little hack for these: if you open this up, and where the power goes in, there's a little resistor across that thing, and you see this little thing, little round little deal hooks together. You can cut that off if you're using like a plug-in wall power, or using a battery that doesn't automatically sense how much current's being used and turn itself off. Some of those batteries, if there's no current coming out of them, they turn the port off. You may not know that because nobody has, like whenever your thing charges up 100%, it shuts off. The battery does itself. So these pull so little power that they put that resistor in there, so it pulls a little more power, so your battery knows something's hooked to it. So if you want to keep making this thing last a lot longer, and your battery doesn't sense when it's no very, very little current being used, you can cut that off, and you can extend the life of your battery by like double by doing that. Because I have electronics background too. I went to Spartan School of Aeronautics. I could work on any part of an aircraft except for an engine. I went through avionics, the aircraft electronics, the power plant, the airframe, instrumentations, all that stuff. That's my background for schooling. But for somehow I'm doing all the nature stuff. And I work for a phone company inside of a building, maintaining the communications for 3 different towns.
That's usually how it turns out.
Yeah. I don't stop. Does anybody got any questions?
Did you get everything covered, or are we getting another episode? Or
I'm sure I forgot about something, but we can always do another episode sometime, do it on another subject. We can do it on
Oh yeah, man.
falconry
you're
or
welcome.
something if you want to, man. That's pretty epic too. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I was
Oh, there you
saying the
go.
great thing about our stream, the reason it's called Fish Plants Imas, is that the Imas allows us to talk about anything else. So if you ever wanted to do like an in-depth on the other side of your hobby, which is the herping side and stuff like that, we can always do something like that too. It's just that's why we kind of have that flexibility there. We can talk about just about anything on this stream, as long as people are interested and want to know about it. But I want to
When
thank
you want to talk
so
about the
much.
other side, sometimes you have to have a 20-sided dice to throw and figure out what you want to talk about.
I just want to say thank you very much, Mark, for such a great presentation.
You're welcome.
The slides were amazing. Being able to see some of the actual fish, and I was just amazed how colored up they were, even though they were just recently captured and stressed out. So I can only imagine when they look, what they must look like once they really get settled in, and how much they can pop. So anything you want to add, Steve?
I just touched the surface too on the number of species and stuff that I've caught, but just don't have time to do everything. But man, it's awesome. I mean, if I go out sometime, man, if there's people in the area, I'd love to take people out and do stuff. I was going to go out this morning and do some fishing and do some videoing and show kind of some of the techniques and things I use. But I was like, man, I don't want to overdo it because I'm going to be doing this presentation. Then I got to work on another presentation, and I've got to work on help my friend do. We're going to collaborate on that one presentation for Oklahoma. I'm going, that's too much. I'll go tomorrow morning. So try to go out tomorrow morning, do a little fishing at the Brazos River. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I usually catch at least 8 or 9 different species. And it's just, I go down there with a tackle box. That's it. That's my tackle box. That's all I take. I got a piece of, this is actually a coat hanger curled up, a hook onto my belt, a short fishing rod, either a collapsible rod or a short fishing rod, minnow bucket, and a net. And I'm done. And I can catch 20 different, not 20, 7 or 8 different species of fish pretty quickly, almost guaranteed. And probably 30 different fish, and just staying in one spot and just letting that natural bait that I caught just go down the river to spots that I know. You just got to learn how to read the river, and you can kind of, after you get good at it, there's going to be fish over there. And everybody else is way down there where it looks really wide and deep. I've walked that whole river. It's knee deep all the way down through there. They're fishing in knee deep water, and they think it's 10 feet deep, And over here, this little narrow area where the water runs fast and it stops, it's carved out that channel right there. It's about 5 feet deep, and all the fish are pulled up right there. So it's kind of funny to watching those guys sit down there and keep turning their head and they keep talking to their buddies, pointing at their buddies, pointing them at me because I'm just pulling in fish almost every cast, and they're down there all day long not catching nothing. It's like, what the heck is he doing? They come walking up to me, hey, how are you catching so many fish? And I tell them, and they don't want to do what I'm doing. They don't want to get in the water. They don't want to, work to get the bait, and they got all these fancy lures and all this fancy bait they bought. And I just got a little small fishing hook and, but that's how I do
those
things.
darters, did you catch the majority of those darters with a net or micro fishing? That was my only question.
Oh, almost, I think all the ones in the photos, there may have been one photo when I caught the microfishing, but almost all with nets. But I have caught them, man, I've caught gambusia about 1 inch long on a hook. But I've caught some of the darters on a hook. When I caught that first darter, because they've got very small mouths too. I caught that first darter on a hook. I'm going, oh man, okay, this is awesome. You catch a fish that's 2 inches long is a lot harder and a lot different than catching a largemouth bass that's a 2-pound bass. That's easy. Go catch your.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because I told you I want that. I want to keep those.
And the good part of microfishing is kids can do microfishing. All you need is a piece of fishing line and a stick and a hook you can make on your own if you want to. And go get you some little bait. Anything that's any kind of little worm or any kind of little. You can get a grasshopper and take it apart and use a little grasshopper head or something on your hook. I mean, you don't have to be anything fancy.
On steroids, if you think about it.
Yeah,
give them something to do.
Heck yeah, man! You take a kid down to the creek. Oh man, you can spend the whole day down there and they won't even know the day passed. It's like, we got to go home already. you know, they'll be telling their friends. They'll have tons of stories about it. It's pretty awesome. Just take some kids down there with a net, you know, a little container to be able to see the fish they catch. So net them up and drop them into a little container or any kind of little invertebrate they catch. Just go to a waterway, a creek like that, and lift up the rock and look underneath of it, and look closely underneath of it. You're going to be blown away with all the stuff that's underneath of that rock, that one rock, all the invertebrates. And if you look, there's stuff stuck to that rock, and it looks like it's like vegetation, but it looks weird. And you're going, what the heck is that? You open it up, there's a freaking insect inside of it that made himself a little house. Caddis flies and stuff like that. Oh yeah, you can show it to kids, and it blows their mind. It's just, man, it inspires them a lot. Even adults. I love doing that. Heck, I even go down there sometimes and sit in a little creek and just flip up rocks and stare at what's underneath, and you know, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, some of that stuff looks like it come out of comic books, man.
Yeah, those Hilgramites, man, are frightening the first time people see them. They're like, whoa, that is in the water. I ain't getting in the water no more.
I had a water louse in the bucket, and they looked like little scorpions. Like, it was crazy. It was gnarly looking, but he got eaten. I was trying to move it, but I Elmira'd it accidentally. So I ain't no sense in waiting. You know, let the cycle go ahead, you know, to the earth.
All right,
But yeah, I mean, if y'all ain't got nothing else,
I think this is a good point to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Mark, again, thank you so much for putting such a great presentation together.
Hey, no problem.
We've always kind of prided ourselves, Steve and I, on doing good presentations, but this one blew anything we've ever done out of the water for sure.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, you have an open invitation anytime you want anything you want to talk about. You're more than welcome to join us. Just let us know, and we'll make it happen. For those of you that are still here and watching this, this is a series. This is the first part of a series of live streams that we're going to be doing. We've got some other hobbyists that are also doing similar things that Mark is doing, but they're from different states of the country. Do we want to give them a little teaser of who's coming on, Steve? Or
come on, man! I'm interested now.
No, look. It's gonna be a hard act to follow, Mark, but this fish planting month will be all right.
There's people out there way better than I am, man.
I told you, you're an humble guy, man. We all do that though. Like, you know, it ain't,
I'm hoping
it ain't
you beat
nothing.
me.
You know,
I hope you find somebody that's got a way better presentation than me. So that makes me want to make a better presentation. So
iron sharpens iron, bro.
That's right.
That's how it works.
That's true.
Get the
That's
best.
all we're doing.
Yeah, and what's so interesting about the next guests that we're going to have, they're all people that are actually out in the field, getting into the waterways, finding what's in them, and it's a side of the hobby that gets very little attention, but I don't understand why. Because I'm
going tomorrow, and I live in Metro,
one of those things that,
Houston. No excuse. I'm going tomorrow.
Yeah, it's just getting
You
out
ain't
there.
got to be in the swamp. Like, if there's water, I promise you there's something alive in it. If that water's been there long enough. Something's in there alive. It could be tadpoles. We got a lot. Toads are loving life.
I've got some 275-gallon totes in my backyard. One's a 230-gallon. And I went there to look today. It was like 90 degrees outside, and I've got 2 leopard frogs in those totes. Lucky. How they got 4 feet off the ground in those totes, I don't know for sure, but they're in there. You know,
I never know either. I never know.
I just, man.
I just read the toads. You know, I gotta help them get out. I don't want them to drown. You know, they get in there, spawn, and then they can't get out.
Ways from a permanent water.
They gotta be. They can smell it.
Well, I had a great time, guys.
All right,
I did too.
Well, for everybody still in the chat, thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this as much as we did. Please give us feedback. Is this the kind of stuff you guys want to continue to watch? Please let us know, and we can make it happen. You know, again, the only reason we're really here is to be able to provide information for those people that have followed us, that have subscribed to us. We want to make sure we're hitting the areas that you guys have been interested in. although some of these things are pretty near and dear to our hearts, we still want to make sure that we're putting out there quality content and stuff that you guys are actually interested in. Because or else, if we don't have an audience, what's the point?
Yeah, basically. And like real quick, if y'all want to expand on these types of conversations, Jorge's already doing it. He's doing an interview series. Go check him out on Mexicali. And I'm going to fit it into my schedule to go broader into topics. I'm going to start going live on Warrior Planet tanks because I took a hiatus from live streaming back in 2019. If y'all want to go watch that video, the one when I got the Christmas lights on, it'll explain everything. It was coquitos. But to get deeper in, check us out. And I mean, I don't have anything else. Thank you guys. Have a good weekend. Start next week strong. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you, bro. This was fun.
Anytime, man. Good.
All right, gentlemen. Well,
Already, man. Y'all have a good
everybody
one.
in the chat, thank you so much. Again, it's 2 hours that you guys have given us of your time, and that's greatly appreciated. Have a great weekend.
Peace.
Bye-bye.